The biggest question for the St. Louis Cardinals at this year's winter meetings is what is going to happen with Nolan Arenado. Will they trade their 8-time All-Star third baseman, or will he stay in St. Louis? Now, Nolan Arenado's market is evolving, especially now that Juan Soto has signed. I think we're going to have a lot more clarity about what teams are interested, what teams he's interested in, and how a potential trade could work out. Things to remember about Nolan Arenado and his situation. He has a full no-trade clause, and he's owed about $74 million over the next 3 years. It's assumed that he will want to play strictly for a contender, so he will not waive that trade clause for just anyone. It's a matter of if the Cardinals can find the right fit, or if they want to keep him, and what that would look like.
That was Katie Wu on a Foul Territory yesterday with Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. Alex, Nolan Arenado remains the biggest story at the winter meetings for the St. Louis Cardinals. John Mozeliak met with the media yesterday and did pass along what I thought was some pretty revealing information about the situation. He said he, quote, intends to try, end quote, when it comes to trading Nolan Arenado. He added, Arenado is not demanding a trade. He's not telling the Cardinals that they have to do it, but Mo believes that it is in the best interest for both sides for him to be traded. And, quote, I would like to try to find a place for him to land, end quote. Katie Wu adding over on The Athletic earlier today that at least 3 mid-market teams have seriously inquired about Nolan Arenado's availability. His list of approved teams is believed to be, quote, very short, end quote. Adding that the Yankees have also expressed interest, but it is unknown at this time if they are on Arenado's list. Now, why are the Cardinals doing this? I think that's been an open-ended question for some people. Is it a full salary dump? Is it about just finding those 600 at-bats for the Cardinals to get for Donovan or Gorman or JC, to T-Bone's chagrin?
Definitely not that.
Oh. Here is the answer directly from John Mozeliak, again, yesterday to the media assembled down at the winter meetings. Quote, reducing payroll remains the priority and will be just as important as Nolan Arenado's full no-trade clause in any trade negotiations, end quote. Again, that comes straight from Katie Wu's piece over on The Athletic. Final thing here. When asked about the possibility that Arenado could report to spring training still as a Cardinal, Mozeliak said it is possible, but then added, I'm not sure that puts us where we want to be from a financial standpoint. We are still trying to move our payroll. There are certainly other ways that we could do that, but moving Arenado would be a big boost. It's mostly financial, but it also creates runway for someone else, end quote. I appreciate, Alex, that the Cardinals are being open and honest with fans, finally, about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. Now, you can agree or disagree with the way that they're going about this. I think both sides have fair arguments here. I kind of like the way they're going about it, and we'll talk about that throughout the course of the day today. But we have said time and time and time again with Doug Armstrong, one of the things that we appreciate about him is his directness, his candor about what the Blues' plan is, how they're going about that plan, and what it's going to look like. He lays it out for fans to understand, here's what we're going to do. Mo never does that in the past. He finally is. Now, it may blow up in his face if they don't get this deal done, but I appreciate that at least he's being open and honest this time around. Alex, what'd you make of some of the reporting yesterday surrounding Nolan Arenado, the reason why the Cardinals are doing this, and the likelihood that he ends up getting dealt?
I applaud the Cardinals. I really do, because that's the biggest thing that I've been nitpicking this team and why I've been getting pre-mad for the last 3 years, because they're always hesitant to say the thing that they're trying to accomplish. Now, sometimes you got to hold the cards close to the chest, and I understand that. But in this instance, to where you have made it very clear that this is going to be a reset for what your roster looks like, there's absolutely no point in sitting there saying, well, we don't know if we're going to move Nolan Arenado. He helps us compete right now. No, they're being upfront and honest with this, saying, look, he doesn't fit into the plans moving forward. We're trying to do what's best for him, and we're also trying to do what's best for our team. Frankly, this is kind of, and I know it doesn't seem as cold-hearted as some of the things that Doug Armstrong has done, but it falls in line with it. Like, this is a guy who opted in twice to stay in St. Louis. Part of this might be Nolan Arenado saying, like, look, I don't know if I want to be here anymore because it's not competitive. This is also the Cardinals saying, we need to move you out.
Yep.
And frankly, this is the right move. I know people are going to get upset if it's a salary dump and all you're getting is some no-named player that is never going to be a part of the Cardinals. Frankly, they could get cash consideration for Nolan Arenado. I don't even know if they do that in Major League Baseball.
They do.
whatever you get in return for Nolan Arenado is a win, because what you're getting in return is third base opening up for Nolan Gorman. You're getting whatever the amount of money that you don't have to eat off of the books. And frankly, you're leaning fully into this youth movement that the Cardinals are trying to accomplish. And you can't do that with Nolan Arenado at third base next season.
You're getting flexibility. The trade for Nolan Arenado, I remember we talked about this with, I think it was Vladimir Tarasenko a couple of years ago, where the Blues decided not to trade him. But at the time, we were talking about, hey, it's not about the return that you could get for Vladimir Tarasenko. What you get in return for Vladdy is the money. You get the flexibility of being able to go utilize that in other different ways. Now, they decided not to do it. But the same is true to a degree here with the Cardinals. What opens up is not necessarily flexibility for this upcoming season payroll-wise. It allows you to just apparently exist next year payroll-wise. What it opens up, though, is 2026 and 2027. It also opens up third base for 600 plate appearances there, for Donovan, for Sajasi, for Gorman, etc. Finding out what these young players can do, I think that's the correct way to operate here. I'm also not entirely sure you get worse at third base next year. I think it is very possible the Cardinals get more production from third base next season than Nolan Arenado gives to whatever his next team is. I think we're underrating the possibility of that. I think it's possible, believe it or not, that the Cardinals end up being better offensively at third and first base next year than Goldie and Arenado are wherever they go next year. I think that's very much in play. And in fact, I would bet on that right now for the Cardinals at first and third next year compared to what those guys end up doing elsewhere. T-Bone, I think this is the correct way to go about this. Do you?
I think it's the right way to go about it of, hey, we're going to move Arenado and we're going to free up that spot at third base for Nolan Gorman. The part that took me kind of aback yesterday, maybe it was just because Mo was so honest, and I was like, oh, fresh air. Was the fact that this is clearly a salary dump of, hey, we just want to get as much of this money off of our books as possible. I thought the Cardinals were in a good spot with their money going into these winter meetings of, hey, we're in a good spot. If we had Arenado, we're fine. We'd cut the money that was necessary. We now have an idea of what our TV revenue is going to be. We're good if we end up being stuck with the Arenado contract. It almost sounds like they still need to shed like $25 million from their books. And if that's the case, the reason I bring up of how shocked I was that this is clearly a salary dump is, okay, well, it sounds like they're not that open to eating a lot of money, which means you're not getting a decent return in this. And sure, I agree. It is about the playing time that you're getting. It's the opportunity you're getting here for the 600 plate appearances for Nolan Gorman at third base. But I also still wouldn't mind seeing somewhat of a return. And right now, I think like the best thing they're getting based on the way Mo was speaking, and look, maybe it was just him speaking. You know, you can't take everything he says at heart. But if it is, hey, we're just looking to dump this salary, you're looking at what you gave up for Arenado as kind of the return of what you're going to get for Arenado. And less, because he's got less years of control, too.
You get nothing.
But you're going to get
the expectation should be you get somebody that you've never heard of that you never hear from again.
Your hope is you get like
me too.
The best piece in it is like Gomber-esque, right?
Who cares? Less than that. If they eat no money, you will likely get something like Juan Yepes was in the deal when the Cardinals got him, which was nothing. It was a lottery ticket that you scratched off, and it turned out you won $5 from it in that scenario. The likelihood, like Max Schrock, remember that deal that the Cardinals made?
Jairo Munoz.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, hey, this guy's like 17, 18 years old, and he may end up becoming something, but the likelihood is you never see him at a major league level. Like, that's probably what you're getting in return for Nolan Arenado this time around.
And why
that's fine. I'm cool with that.
And why I'm cool with that too.
At least they have a direction now, finally.
And I'm getting something better. 600 plus at bats for Nolan Gorman at third base, where I'm saying you are a third baseman next year, nothing else.
Nolan Arenado last season was 1% above league average offensively. Nolan Arenado 2 years ago was 8% above league average offensively. If you go over the last couple of seasons, that exact same time frame, you have other guys on your roster that can produce more offensively than what Nolan Arenado has over the past 2 years. Now, there's also the uncertainty of what they're going to look like as they get more and more plate appearances, right? Like, I don't know what Nolan Gorman looks like this year. If he's starting every single day at third base, no clue. Defensively, he's certainly worse than Nolan Arenado. What is the drop-off? Is it from a A to a D? Possibly. What if it's from an A defensively to a C+? And offensively, you go from a C+ to a B+. I think that ends up probably coming out ahead for the Cardinals next year because offense is harder to find than defense, especially at the third base position. And if you look at it at first base, hey, going from what you had with Goldie last year to what you probably are going to have with Contreras next season, you're going from a D to an A at that spot. So I think it's possible the Cardinals end up coming out. I would bet on the Cardinals coming out ahead at those two respective positions going into next season. Now, where it gets difficult, and this is where I have to be open and honest as well. If we're going to give credit to the Cardinals, we need to talk about it ourselves as well. I think it is very difficult to explain why they're trading Arenado in a salary dump and then keeping Fedde and Helsley going into a season where they're very unlikely to add going into next year. That becomes a more difficult conversation to have, and I want to have it on the other side. With Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line. You can check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That's where the Graveyard Chat is up and running. The 101 ESPN studio cams are powered, as always, by the Air Alliance team. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Jeremy Rutherford. He's the Blues insider for The Athletic. But next, I do want to talk about the Helsley and Fedde decisions because I think they are somewhat related to Arenado. The Cardinals seem to disagree with that, though, and we'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. So what are the Cardinals going to do? What are they going to do at the pitching side of things? We know they're trying to trade Nolan Arenado. That was updated yesterday from John Mozeliak. If you missed any of our conversation about it in the open, check it out on the podcast page. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
So if you're trading Nolan Arenado, why are you keeping Eric Fedde and Ryan Helsley? I think that's the question that a lot of fans have right now. And it's a fair one, honestly. To me, Alex, I'll play the devil's advocate side, especially on Ryan Helsley. I think one of the reasons why is because there's still upside for this team, despite what most believe. I know it feels like hopium, but I said in the first segment, and I believe it, I think the Cardinals are going to be better offensively at first and third than they were a year ago. I think the pitching has upside because of Quinn Matthews, Tink Hens, Michael McGreevy, Andre Palante that they did not have a year ago. Last year, you were locking in the floor. This year, I think you're hoping for more with the ceiling of what the roster can be. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's at least there potentially for you. And so for that reason, I actually think it kind of makes some sense to hold on to Ryan Helsley. I would also add there are a ton of closers available on the market, including Tanner Scott, including Devin Williams, including Ryan Presley. And normally, there's more demand at the deadline than there is in the offseason when the supply is so great for these relievers that are available out there. So I don't mind that one. I actually think it might end up we might look back a year from now and say, Cardinals got that one right. The Fedde one is a little bit more confusing to me. I'm not totally sure why you hold on to him other than just we got to lock in innings. We've got to find a way to allow like Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Eric Fedde. Those guys provide our innings, and then we'll have the last two spots in the rotation for upside with young players. We don't want to make the mistake of counting too much on the young guys the way that we did a couple of years ago. And then it becomes the snowball effect where we're chasing the innings and then we deplete our bullpen and it ends up becoming a disaster. Alex, do you think the Cardinals are doing the right thing of trading Arenado, letting all of the other veterans that were free agents walk, and still holding on to Fedde and Helsley? Because it is kind of two separate discussions almost.
I don't. Your thoughts on Helsley, I would say that's my thoughts on Eric Fedde. Because like the Eric Fedde side of things, sure, you could probably get a really good return because we'll get to this a little bit later, but the pricing starting pitching free agent-wise is very lofty. But you need innings, and you're paying, what, $11 million for Eric Fedde this season?
Seven.
Less? Is that what
I think it's 7.5.
7.5.
You're going to the offseason, and if you have to go to the free agent market to sign a pitcher to give you innings, let's say you trade Fedde, man, you're going to be paying $15+ million for somebody that fits into that spot. So the Fedde thing makes sense, but, man, if you're still in the salary dump mode, I would be looking at all of the assets I have right now and saying, like, let's see what we can get. I know it's not going to be the same. I'd like to put Ryan Fernandez as the closer in this situation. Is it going to be as perfect as Ryan Helsley? Absolutely not. But I'm in a youth movement. I'm in a reset. So let's go get something for Ryan Helsley. And I know there's a lot on the market. I'd be exploring it nonetheless. And on the pitching side, maybe it's not Eric Fedde. Maybe it's Steven Matz. Maybe it's Miles Michaelis, although Michaelis has made it pretty clear he doesn't want to get moved. If you're in a dump mode and this is a reset, man, I'd be looking at every asset I have and finding out what is available via trade, because right now, teams don't want to pay the price for the free agents.
Yeah, somebody on the text line said, guys, you need innings. Who's going to throw for the Cardinals? They got $7 million invested into Fedde. $7 million is nothing. That's the thing. The price of pitching, to Alex's point, is going up so astronomically. I mean, you look at Severino just got $21 million a year on a multi-year deal. It sounds like Sean Manaea is expected to get $20+ million on a multi-year deal. You see these other guys at the top end of the market that are mid to upper tier rotation starters. They're going to get like 25 over 5 to 7 years on their deals. Fedde is a massive value, which is exactly why he has value to the Cardinals, but also why he would have value on the market if you traded him elsewhere. Mid-market teams, dude, they would love nothing more than to get their hands on a guy like Eric Fedde at that kind of contract, given what is not available to them right now in free agency because of the prices that they're having to dole out. So I'll trade a prospect for Fedde instead of having to go out there and end up, getting one of these other guys. The thing that on the Cardinal side, they could probably QO him next year on Eric Fedde, because Fedde will very likely get close to $20 million on a multi-year deal after next season, as long as he's somewhat similar to what he did a year ago. And in that case, they get a second-round pick next year. So they have to beat that kind of a return in order to trade him this offseason, because you're giving up a year of control and that possibility of a QO offer for him next year. to trade him now. So you would have to get a legit haul for Eric Fedde to make it worthwhile for you. And my guess is they're just not going to get that this offseason. So that's probably why you maintain control of him. T-Bone, where do you fall on this, though?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get that kind of return, but I definitely think they need to listen on Eric Fedde. Look, everybody that they're trying to trade right now, I mean, everybody that's been at least rumored on the market is Arenado and Steven Matz. And Arenado's clearly a salary dump, and Steven Matz is a distressed asset, right? I think if you're in a retool, you've got to get something in a trade, right? And the idea of, well, what are we going to do with our innings if we trade Eric Fedde? Look, if you trade Arenado, which clearly they're trying to do, and then you trade Eric Fedde and get a pretty good return in return for him, you know what I would do for the people that are asking, well, what do we do about our innings? Because I agree, you've got to worry about your minor leagues as well when you do these kind of moves. It's why in 2021, they probably shouldn't have been buyers, but they had to go out and find innings to support themselves, just keep them afloat. That's why they acquired Lester and Happ. I would go out and I would sign like Kyle Gibson to a 1-year, $10 million deal.
Yep.
Right? Gibson would love to be back in St. Louis. I mean, he publicly said that. He would love to pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals again. And now, sure, I'm bringing in a guy that makes $3 million or $2.5 million more than Eric Fedde. It's only a 1-year deal. It's a guy that's going to help throw innings. And though I am moving on from Fedde, I am in theory getting something in return that can potentially help us during this retool that helps us reset moving forward. So that's how I would go about it, but that's too creative for the Cardinals. I don't think they would do that. I think they are going around the route of, well, you know, we've got Eric Fedde. We'll have him be the guy that eats innings. It's $2.5 million less than what Kyle Gibson will get on the open market potentially, and we could potentially QO him at the end of the season if necessary.
It's a fascinating move, and it's something that I think they should at least consider going into this offseason is trading Fedde, signing Kyle Gibson, but the timing on that also has to be right. It sounds like the Kyle Gibson market is already starting to heat up because teams want to lock in the innings the way that the Cardinals did with him last year. And if he signs within the next few days in the Fedde negotiations, because other teams I'm imagining that are potentially going to be in the Fedde market are also first going to try to get the big-time starters, and then eventually they'll see, hey, what's the mid-tier market look like, and can I sign one of those guys to a decent deal before giving up serious assets for an Eric Fedde? I think it's just going to take time on these kinds of trade negotiations because teams want to go to the free agent market first. I think that's what's stalling the Nolan Arenado sweepstakes, for example, is not giving up assets for that guy while there's still potential alternatives on the market. So I think the timing might be what ends up screwing the Cardinals on that one, unfortunately.
The other thing that's interesting with like Eric Fedde is most of his value comes mostly just from his salary right now is the $7.5 million. Like you look at his baseball savant page, and we know teams are going to look at this. There's a lot of blue on that savant page.
He also pitched well, though. Like
he did pitch well, but you wonder if there's some teams that look at that and say he's a 1-year rental. Is he really that guy? That was what the Cardinals saw, which was like the 3.3 ERA guy. Expectation is he's probably more of like a 4 ERA guy
when
you
really
acquire him. Yeah, I just wonder how much teams are willing to give up for that, right? So if you're the Cardinals and you're saying, well, we could potentially QO him, I think the team that is looking at that going, well, okay, you can potentially QO him. We don't think he's what you saw last year.
Maybe not. There are some guys that just aren't baseball savant, like types of pitchers
like
or types of hitters. Sure. Like there are some guys that just outperform what their baseball savant page will show you because they're just really good pitchers. And I think Fedde might be one of those. Now, I'm not telling you he's a number 2. I'm not telling you he's a number 1. He's like a really solid number 3 starter, and the way that he pitches will, I think, be a upper 3s, low 4s ERA guy. And if he's throwing 170 innings, that's super valuable in the middle of your rotation. It is certainly worth more than $7.5 million. Like that's probably close to an $18 million contract right now. It's crazy, but that's where we're at with Major League Baseball. All right, I wanted to get to one other thing that John Mozeliak said yesterday, Alex, because he was on with MLB Network and he was talking about the Cardinal way. They asked him, hey, you know, you guys are pivoting, you're going to this reset kind of a off-season, whatever you want to call it. What does that mean? What are you guys trying to accomplish here? How is the Cardinal way changing for you guys? Here's what he had to say.
Well, when you think back to those last couple decades, it really was, Albert and Yachty. And then we went and built around it. And when you have that, that's a good place to start. And so ultimately, we have to find that type of player down below, inject them into our roster, and then see where it goes. But, ultimately, our ownership is still going to support decisions. We're going to put a roster out there that's going to be exciting this year and that we're excited about, but it is going to be some younger faces.
Okay, I love what he said at the beginning there, Alex, because I think some have lost the plot on what has gone wrong for the Cardinals. the Cardinals are still producing really good, solid Major League Baseball players. They're amazing at that. Like Tommy Edman just went off and became a World Series champion because he's just a really solid player. Brendan Donovan is that. I think Thomas Ajacey is likely going to become that
Luke
down
and
the
Baker.
road. I think that you have that already with like a Pedro Pais, just a really solid Major League backup catcher long term, right? They produce these guys left and right. Hell, Lars Nootbaar is that, honestly. What they struggle with mightily in their system is producing a star. Who was the last star that the Cardinals developed within their pipeline? Was it Matt Carpenter?
Yeah. So I would say.
Yeah, Jack Flaherty for a year, but yeah, probably Matt
Position
Carpenter.
player-wise.
Yeah, Matt Carpenter.
I mean, that's been almost 15 years now since they produced a star player within their system. That's their problem. And once you produce that guy, now everything else starts to click into place. That's what they're lacking. And they need Nolan Gorman or Jordan Walker, maybe both of them to become that, or they need J.J. Weatherholtz to become that. And if they do, all right, now we can hit the ground running. But their problem is not the solid major leaguers. Their problem is in a complete inability to develop that superstar talent. And that's what's got to happen over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's what every team is looking to develop. And like you don't just go out there and acquire those, because in the trade market, you're basically giving up everything for it. Free agency, you're giving up your entire team salary for it. So you have to find a way to develop this. This is what the Cardinals lucked into with Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina. And unfortunately, you got to get lucky once again. You're not going to be drafting in the top 5. It sounds like those years, one year, I should say, is over and you didn't get that pick. So now you're going to have to find a way to get it in the international market, find some late draft hero that comes out of nowhere. This is how you put yourself in the conversation with all of these other teams. You go develop the superstar.
Or acquire somebody in a trade, right? Like that. This is why, like I've said in this offseason, like though they are resetting, and I understand the Arenado aspect to a degree of, hey, we're just looking to dump the salary. We'll take whatever it is that we get in return. To me, you've got to find a way to win one of these trades when you make these moves. If you are trading Fedde or Steven Matz, you got to get something in return. You trade Helsley, you got to get something in return that at least becomes a piece of your future. And hopefully maybe you end up getting that star in that trade market. Maybe it is through the draft that you end up doing it. Somewhere along those lines, you've got to find that guy that you develop in your system. That doesn't necessarily mean he's in the system today. Maybe he comes in from one of those trades. But if you find that guy, now you can build around him, and then it just sets up things easier, especially when you get 7 years of control and him being on an undervalued contract.
Vest T-Bone, he's Alex, I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get to some of your questions. 314-399-9646 is the Your Comfort Service text line to get those in right now. But coming up next, Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider for The Athletic. He joins us on BK and Ferrario coming up next.
Tanner Hendrickson here, the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Vancouver Canucks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, and our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. This Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Happy to go out to the Callier and Thompson hotline to be joined by our friend and the Blues insider for The Athletic. He's Jeremy Rutherford, joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on the show. Jer, appreciate the time as always, my man. How you doing today?
Doing well. And one of the four of us will be going to bed about 1 o'clock in the morning tonight. Which guy is it?
Tanner, because he's a bachelor.
Honestly, I actually think you have this wrong, JR. Roughly 3 of the 4 of us will be going to bed tonight around 1 a.m.
T-Bone's thing is he will take a nap until 9 p.m. and then be up until 3 a.m.
Don't call me between 6 and 9 o'clock tonight.
And joke's on you, JR, if you think that postgame's going until 1 a.m.
I should rephrase it then. One of the 4 of us will be going to bed at about 12:02 as soon as the game's over.
There you go. Bingo! And that is, of course, the great Jeremy Rutherford. All right, JR, let's get into this. So, Blues play over the weekend against Edmonton, lose 4-2. I didn't really have big takeaways from that game, strangely enough. I guess the biggest thing was them reuniting that top line of Buchnevich, Thomas, and Kyrou once again. What was your biggest takeaway from that loss, the first one in regulation under Jim Montgomery?
Yeah, I think that we should realize that things aren't always going to go as well as we've seen in the first 5 games under Jim Montgomery. Like, there's going to be hiccups. Broberg, who's played really well, had a couple hiccups in that game. Bennington lets in a goal that he probably wants back there at the end. And he's been, I think, really good this year. You talk about that line being reunited. There's things like that to look forward to, the possibility of that. But I think that, how are they going to come back? They've been off for a couple of days. We all know about the situation with Taylor Swift and Edmonton and Vancouver. She's taken over Vancouver, so they spent about 6 weeks in Edmonton. How are they going to look after a couple of days off going into Vancouver tonight? Because, guys, look at this big picture. This is the end of a very long road trip. Then you come home and you play San Jose at home, and then you play 3 and 4 and 7 games in 12 days leading into the Christmas break. So, at the end of a long trip, which we know is really grueling, the Blues can't come home and rest. They've got a lot of hockey after this Vancouver game tonight.
So, JR, one thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about over these last couple of games is the Blues still getting that new coach bump with Jim Montgomery. And personally, I kind of felt like that Philadelphia Flyers game when Montgomery even joked saying, well, we lost, so I'd say the new coach bump is gone. Where do you come out on how long that new coach bump lasts and then it starts to defer to the team playing under new coach Jim Montgomery?
So I'm sure, in each case around the league, a new coach comes in. It could be different. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months. I think the Blues have a unique situation with Jim Montgomery because, yes, you can't deny that there's going to be some sort of coaching change bump. But that pre-existing relationship that they have with Montgomery, I think, supersedes kind of that norm of what we're used to with that bump. They know about him. They know what he wants. They can relate to him. They were ecstatic when he walked through the doors at Madison Square Garden for that game against the Rangers. And so, I think they want to play the style that he wants to play. I think they want to do good things. There's guys on this roster who want to stay in the lineup, and obviously the only way to do that is to play hard. So, whether this thing ended, like he said, he joked with the Philly game, or whether it ended with the game a couple nights ago in Edmonton, I still think the bigger picture is the Blues have a good thing going forward and that they have a good relationship with this coach, and they're going to continue to play well for him, or at least try to, even after this bump ends.
We're talking to Jeremy Rutherford, Blues insider for The Athletic. He joins us here on BK and Ferrario every single Tuesday. Jer, I'm going to talk about this, or we're going to talk about this a little bit later on. I'm going to ask the question of the guys. How would you feel if Jake Neighbors ends up having a career similar to Jake DeBrusk?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I know we've talked about Dylan Holloway, and would you take a Brandon Saad type career? You got Neighbors and DeBrusk. I think people would be happy with a DeBrusk type career. He's playing really well for Vancouver this year, leads the team in 12 goals, with 12 goals. I just think that look what's had to transpire for Jake DeBrusk. You know, he's in Boston. Things don't go well. You know, there's coaching changes there. You know, do the coaches believe in him? You know, the numbers have been really big one year and then a couple of years without the big numbers. And now he's doing it again. So I think the topsy-turvy, if I can throw that word out there today, you know, has been there in Jake DeBrusk's career. I think that with Jake Neighbors, you know, you might want similar type of numbers. But I think that you're going to want it to be consistent. You're going to want him to continue to grow and get better and certainly stay with one organization if you're a Blues fan. So, you know, did we all think that he was going to put up 30 each year after what he did last year? You know, I don't know that anybody thought that that was going to be a consistent level for him to reach. But I do think 20 to 25 goals a year throughout the rest of his career it would be a good career for him. And I think, as I said, Blues fans would want that to be more consistent than we've seen with Jake DeBrusk.
JR, on the personnel side, I personally thought Nick Leddy was going to be playing on one of these games on this road trip, and at least that's what Jim Montgomery made it seem like, but we found out yesterday that he went back to St. Louis. Have you heard anything on the Nick Leddy situation?
Nothing concrete. And, guys, this has been one of the more mind-boggling situations injury-wise in quite some time with the Blues, because initially, you go back to a coaching change ago. Drew Bannister was the one who said that we'll wait and see what's up with Nick Leddy. But when you see him back, when you see him skating again, he's not going to be too far off. Obviously, things have changed, back and forth with that. He's on the road trip before he came home from this road trip. So there was a chance that he was going to play, like you said, Alex, but to quote Jim Montgomery, he said that the situation flared up again. So obviously they don't want to put him back in that situation. So I don't see any necessarily light at the end of the tunnel here for Nick Leddy after he's been skating for a couple weeks and gets sent home from a road trip.
JR, great stuff as always, man. We appreciate the time joining us each and every Tuesday here on the show. People can read your latest mailbag over on The Athletic as well. They can find that link at JP Rutherford on Twitter. All the best to you and the family. We'll talk with you again next week, my friend.
All right, get some beauty sleep so you look like me, guys. Come on.
Do our best. That's Jeremy Rutherford joining us as he does each and every Tuesday here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, what do you make of the situation with Nick Leddy?
It's odd. I don't deny that he's dealing with something. Like it's got to be, and not speculating injuries. It's got to be something like a groin or something like that. That just every time you flares up.
Ankle? Am I wrong on that?
I don't remember.
I could be wrong on that. I don't remember. Want to speculate and end up getting wrong.
It's something that they thought wasn't as severe and then becomes a lot more severe. I also think the Blues are playing this long game here with Nick Leddy, because there's no point in him coming back and having this react, because you've got P.O. Joseph and you've got Scott Perunovich. One, they're playing well, and two, if you're the Blues, frankly, you'd like to know what they get, and you get a long runway with these guys. And you know what Nick Leddy is. Let's say Nick Leddy heals up 100%, comes back post-trade deadline. That's good for the Blues that he's 100%. Now, obviously, there's going to be some timing that he's going to get down, but you also get 50-plus games to figure out what Scott Perunovich and P.O. Joseph is for your team. So I frankly just think the Blues are being cautious. If this was like, we don't have any defensemen, I wonder if Nick Leddy would be playing on this road trip. But because it's flared up and because they want to make sure he's 100%, and you want to keep the playing time for these guys, why not send him back and make sure he's good?
Blues back in action tonight. It's a late one. Alex is excited about it. Pre-game coverage with Alex Ferrario begins at 8 o'clock in Vancouver. Puck drop for this one tonight at 9. Blues versus Vancouver Canucks. Final game in this Western Canada road trip. Blues versus Canucks tonight at 9 o'clock. Right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. If you guys have any questions, get them in right now. In about 10 minutes, we will talk about the Cardinals' third base position and what they need to get from it next year in order to be top 5 to 10 in Major League Baseball. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but time for your questions. From the 618, guys, how important is it for the Cardinals to continue hitting the international market for young players? It seems like that is where a lot of the stars are coming from nowadays. I mean, huge. The Cardinals have not done a good enough job about getting into the international. They've gone into it, and they've signed guys. They have not done a good enough job of finding the right players from the international market.
That's where I think you could find a star. You go out there and you find a young player, and you just have to hope that you're scouting. Who was it? Was it the Red Sox beat writer or the Tampa beat writer that told us that's like Chaim Bloom's area of expertise when he was with the team?
It was one of the...
It was Tampa, I thought.
I thought it might have been the Red Sox. But
either way, if that's the area of expertise for him and that's where he's really isolated, I hope that they can capitalize on that market, because that does seemingly come a lot of stars out of that spot.
Yeah, you got to be good at one of the areas of finding a young talent guy to be a star in your system, right? Whether that's the draft, whether that is the international free agent signing period, or whether it is you evaluate other people's systems better and then pluck them in trades. You've got to find a lane in which you become really good at. The hope is multiple, but realistically, every organization's really good at one, and then they're okay at the other two. And you just got to find your lane. And I think Chaim Bloom has been spending some time in the Dominican Republic, if I'm not mistaken, right? Going down where the Cardinals Academy is. So they've got to get better there. They're trying to make some strides in that. I saw they just signed a kid from Cuba, right-handed guy with 0.3 ERA in his last season. Oh, my God. But they've got to find a way to get better on the international market for sure.
All right, from the 314, do you guys have a favorite place to go see the Christmas lights this time of year?
Mine's always been Tillis Park. I don't know if anybody's been there before. They do huge setup.
One we do.
It used to be you could do a carriage ride or a sleigh ride through it with horses. Took my wife there when we were dating.
Smooth.
Worked. Got married. But I don't know if they do the sleigh rides anymore. That one, my daughters love Jellystone Park by Six Flags.
We do Grant's Farm, Brewery Lights, the Zoo, and Botanical Gardens. Those are the 4. I would say... I think Grant's Farm is awesome this time of year. But what they do for Halloween and then what they do for Christmas is
I love
really cool. So that would probably be my favorite one. T-Bone, do you guys do anything?
Botanical Gardens is the one that my family has gone to in the past. We haven't done anything this year, but that's always been my favorite spot to go, is the Botanical Gardens.
If you need somebody to go with, T-Bone, you can hop in our minivan.
Yeah, go ahead. We'll take you. We just put our schedule together for the winter.
Okay.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. From the 636, guys, with Parayko and Broberg both healthy, the top pair is obviously set defensively. Who do you think, when everybody is healthy, would be the best second pair defensively? I mean, it's Letty and Falk, right?
I would actually go Suter and Kessel.
Not Suter and Falk?
No, I would go Suter and Kessel, and Letty and Falk is my third pair. Because now I think I have...
How the mighty have fallen. Alex used to be the biggest Justin Falk defender in all of St. Louis.
I'm not
giving up on the bounce back here.
I just think if you're talking about the best defensive lineup, you've got your top pair. I think Suter and Kessel profile perfectly as a shutdown duo that can play 18, 19 minutes a night. And then Letty and Falk, you try and take advantage of other teams' third pair defensively or third pair forwards, and they can be the offensive stalwarts.
I like that. I think it's going to end up being Letty and Falk would be my guess.
That wasn't the question.
Should that be? No, but I think that's the way they will go. I think they will go with Letty and Falk or Suter and Falk. One of those two will be in that second pair, and then it'll be Kessel with whoever the third guy is that hasn't been used. I think
they would go Suter and Falk, Letty and Kessel, because you're going to slow play Letty back into it, only play him a few amount of minutes.
Yeah. All right, from the 314. Guys, I heard you earlier, BK said that Mo deserves credit for being honest with the fan base. I'm thinking to myself, why are you giving him credit? They are only being honest now because they were forced into the situation. They don't deserve any credit whatsoever. So why are you suggesting they do? Because if I'm going to be, the way that I typically try to operate with this, if I'm going to be critical of them for not doing something, then I will give them credit when they do that thing that I was critical of them not doing previously. Doesn't mean that like you should be jumping for joy right now.
Yay, Mo
Them
was
being
honest.
honest is them saying we don't have the money to spend on our team right now, and therefore we're going to trade this guy. For that reason, number one. For number two, because the byproduct of that is we get the young players more opportunities. Nobody should be thrilled about that. But I'm glad they're at least openly saying it instead of hiding behind some nonsense that they would typically go with. So I'll give them credit for it. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want.
We get yelled at all the time because we don't bash on Mo because he's not being upfront and honest with the fans. And fans even say, why can't he be more like Doug Armstrong? He legitimately on MLB Network did what Doug Armstrong has done, being upfront, honest, telling you what the thing is. Doug even told TMA he's all about transparency with your organization. Mo, now it's taken him a long time to get here, but I think after 17 press conferences, they realized maybe we should be more upfront about this.
I was about to say that. So I think they got off to a really terrible start to the offseason. That press conference was a disaster.
Which one?
Yes. That day of press conferences was not good. It was not a good look for the Cardinals, and they did not seem to have their ducks in order at that point in time. I think a lot of that was due to the RSN deal because that essentially determined the outlook of what their offseason was. They didn't have the information they needed to give that press conference, and I think because they opted out of the press conference last year, they couldn't say, hey, we can't do a presser right now. We need to wait until we get this information. They had to do the press conference as quickly as possible following the season, and so they did it. I think what we have seen since the RSN announcement from the Cardinals, whether it's from the leaks that Derek Gould has reported, Katie Woo has reported, etc., or what we saw yesterday from MLB Network with both Mo and Marmol, and then what he said on Sunday with KMOX, I think he is now laying out exactly what their plans are this offseason in a way that I have rarely heard him do in the past. So I think things changed once they signed that RSN deal for them.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do think it is a good thing that Mo and the organization are being upfront and being honest. I will say this, though. I thought Mo was a little too honest yesterday, right? Of saying, hey, this is like purely a salary dump. We basically are trying to cut $30 million. And BK got all upset at me for saying that.
There's never never a chance to be too honest.
Oh, yeah, there
T-Bone.
is.
The reason
Yeah,
why
there
you
is.
have to do that if you're Mo is because if you don't say that then, and then suddenly it comes out what the return is for Mo, and people didn't have the expectations set properly, now you're going to get crushed because fans probably thought you would be willing to eat the money to get a better prospect in return. And then when you don't, because that was never the plan for them apparently, you had an opportunity on the front end to set expectations properly. And I think they did that yesterday.
Hey, it's just defending Mo again. It's
CYA,
unbelievable.
T-Bone, CYA.
I
Cover
don't like
your-
that this is the way that they're going to potentially be going about it. I would like them to eat money to get the better prospect in return. But if financially they can't do that, then they can't do that.
Yeah, they don't have money, man.
We're so
what are you
poor.
upset about?
You know what? Most should just say the truth. You fans not going to the ball games is really hurting this.
Bill
yeah.
DeWitt III said that already.
Oh, yeah, that's
and he
right.
chuckled
Sorry.
about it, too.
The third.
But they think they're going to be entertaining.
Last thing here.
Okay.
T-Bone and BK and Alex.
Whoa.
Are you guys excited to watch the bragging rights game more so than you were prior to Mizzou beating Kansas over the weekend?
I always am excited for it. I've always enjoyed the bragging rights game. Even when Mizzou has been bad, it's still been fun.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Last year was the first year that I hadn't gone in like
Last year sucked. I
3 or
was
4
there. It was
years. So
terrible.
I guess I was probably good. I didn't go to that
Not
one.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed last year a lot.
This year, I think we should go as a show.
I'm
Dude,
out
if
of
the
town.
tickets were reasonable, I would totally go.
Yeah, man, we'll
but
get
they
a press
are
pass.
They're in. I was planning to go, and they're insane right now. It's like $180 to get into the door.
I don't know if I've always enjoyed this game. I don't know if I'm more excited than like in years past. I'm actually more a little worried based on what I saw from Mizzou
Sure.
over the weekend, because I thought for sure it was almost like scheduling a non-con like cupcake game until I saw Mizzou show up for a change and beat Kansas.
Go
So
learn today.
now I'm more worried than anything else. But I always get excited for Illinois basketball. It's like the one sport that I'm still like an actual fan about.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into some NFL quick hitters. But next, what do the Cardinals need to get from their third base position in order to be top 5 or 10 in Major League Baseball next year? Might be less than you expect. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN. some news that has just been posted. This comes from Foul Territory, but it's Joel Wolf, the agent for, interestingly enough, Nolan Arenado.
Friend of the show.
Oh, they asked about that?
Roki Sasaki's agent said something interesting, Alex.
Well, that's not good. We burned that bridge already.
He said that Roki Sasaki could, quote, benefit from a soft landing spot in a small to mid-market team, partially because of how tough the Japanese media has been on his mental health. So
We'll take care of you.
The buzz has been that he's definitely not going to the Dodgers. Because early in the offseason, it was like, oh, you kidding me? They're going to get Blake Snell and Roki Sasaki, and then it came out that he's probably not going to land there. And then it became like he's going to be a Padre for sure. He's obviously going to be a Padre. Maybe that's the case, but
say it. Say it with your chest.
If you don't want to be around a bunch of Japanese media, San Diego's probably not the spot. You're probably gonna have to go somewhere in Middle America.
Yeah, St. Louis, I've heard.
There's only so many options if you're going to do that. He also then said, and I don't know how much this matters. It's probably he was asked a question. My assumption is that, hey, does he care about how good a team is? And Roki Sasaki's agent said, yeah, he's paid attention to how teams have done as far as overall success, end quote.
Overall success.
If he wants to go to a mid-market team and he wants to go to one that has had some success, Cleveland, Tampa, those are probably the spots that make the most sense. Maybe Arizona, if you want to go a little closer to a coast, could make some sense. St. Louis? Do you guys give it any chance whatsoever? I would have, before this quote, I would have said 0. That's why we have spent exactly no time talking about Roki Sasaki. But
I guess, and I'm with you, like, you hear it and it's like there's no bleeping way. But why not? Like, he's not expensive.
No, this is a rookie level contract.
He's young.
Yes.
Which is what the Cardinals are trying to do. And he also has the potential of being a star.
A number one.
So why would that not fall into the criteria of the Cardinals?
It would fit into the criteria of the Cardinals. I don't know if it fits into the criteria of Roki Sasaki. That becomes the question, is like, would he be interested in coming
here? But now with these bullet points, you don't have to worry about the media that's all over you.
Yeah, but this is the biggest bullet point is, are they a winning team that he would be willing to come for? Because now that you're in this reset, if they weren't in a reset and the Cardinals were still quote-unquote pushing, it would make all the sense in the world, right?
If they have Roki Sasaki, like if he's what he's expected to be, kind of changes the trajectory, no?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the time frame you're looking for, Sasaki?
There's too many question marks on what your offense is. Does he? Yeah, he helps you pitching-wise, and sure, that maybe adds a couple wins.
Potentially.
Yeah, I agree.
Legitimately
but
good.
There's so many question marks in your offense that I don't know, even if he signs here, that you look at that and say, okay, the Cardinals are this.
I think they would be the favorite to win the division, no?
Oh yeah, you'd be at least the favorite to get into the playoffs pitching wise.
Assuming he's as good as he's expected to be, which who knows? Last year Yamamoto was expected to be a stud.
I don't know if they would be like the clear favorite still. I think there'd be so many question marks still on their offense that a lot of people will either go Brewers or they'll still, for some reason, look at the Reds and say the Reds.
Fair, but I think right now you're in contention to win this division. I know everybody around me disagrees with that. Fair enough, but I think this division is just not good, and I think Milwaukee is going to get worse before they get better. But like Willy Adames is a huge piece to lose, man. I think people are underselling just how big that is, and they're likely to trade Devin Williams as well. That team, I'm not going to count them out because I'm never going to be willing to count them out after what happened last year. There's a chance that team wins like 86 games next year, maybe less. I think the Cardinals could get there, and if you add Roki Sasaki, you could be a 90-win team next year.
And here's the thing. You can't control what his decision is because however he views your team, that's how he views it, and you can't do anything about it. But if I'm the Cardinals, I'm trying to sell my organization as much as possible. Like, I'm not looking at that and saying, nope, doesn't make sense for us. No, that makes perfect sense for you. Young, cheap, has the potential to be a star. Isn't that just what Mo was talking about?
For sure.
Getting cheaper and getting stars.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, with how bad they are with their international money, I'd give all of it to him. That's the thing. This is not one of those situations. This is not a bidding war. This is not the Cardinals going out there and saying, like, hey, we need to spend $100 million. Like, this is not the Yamamoto situation. This is more similar to what Shohei Ohtani did the first time around. When he signed with the Angels, it was not a, like, hey, let's give him this $20 million signing bonus. It was, hey, come on over to the States. This is going to be your opportunity, and you'll make money the way that Brendan Donovan does or Lars Nootbaar does. You're going to go through the pre-arb and the arbitration process. And then maybe down the road you get a long-term contract wherever you end up signing. But he'll play with his next team for like 5 or 6 years, most likely. And I suppose the Cardinals are maybe one of the teams that could be a contender here. There's no reporting connecting the two, but when you hear this from Joel Wolfe, his agent, it does make you wonder, is it possible they do something interesting here? I don't know. I would have said no before this quote, and now I say maybe.
Yeah, I'd say it's like, what, 10, 15% chance now? Feel like the Cardinals have, and that's better than where it was, because I agree, the answer was 0% before this quote came out.
Derek Gould just poured gasoline on that fire. He just quoted what you were just talking, or he just tweeted what you were just talking about. Joel Wolfe saying that a smaller market team might be more beneficial.
Attaboy, Derek. Wait, yeah.
Begins meeting with teams this week. Bobby Boogie.
You know Mo's having conversations with the agent a lot,
He has
right?
to.
Because he's talking with Arenado, who's got a no trade protection.
Hey, we found a deal for Nolan. By the way,
So can we like spread some more gasoline all over this fire?
Oh, yes, please.
spread it, pour it, throw the bottle on.
If you found out a month from now, Cardinals sign Roki Sasaki, it starts to explain the Fedde decision and the Helsley decision, right? Those become a lot more explainable if you understand Sasaki is going to be a part of the plan. And the Nolan Arenado thing, like that was just always going to be something where he was going to go elsewhere. That's not a money decision one way or the other. It's just, hey, we want to get younger. And now here's potentially a star in your rotation. So you've got that possibility. And you've got the possibility of developing a star with either Gorman or Walker in your lineup. Let's take this year, see what all these guys are, including Sasaki, who you don't know how it's going to translate to Major League Baseball. And then next year, let's push. And let's get the books cleaned up right now. And then let's see what it looks like a year from now. The other thing, if you get Sasaki, that allows you to trade Fedde. That is your in to trade Fedde down the road.
Yeah. If I'm the Cardinals, I have to at least be exploring this. Because this is what you do in a reset. Somebody texted in earlier on the Air Comfort Service text line saying if this was Blues management, they're all over this. If you're going younger,
I truly believe the Cardinals will be all over it. I have no doubt in my mind. And they're going to push to try to do this. It becomes a question of like, it is 100% about does he wants to do this.
Yeah, and I will raise this up as well. I mean, the reason the quote was what? He doesn't, it's taking a strain on him with the media from Japan.
He said he could, quote, benefit from a soft landing in a small to mid-market, partially because of how tough the Japanese media has been on his mental health.
So with that right there, and I'm not saying that St. Louis media is extremely tough, but the Cardinals are certainly a focal point, right? What are we talking about right now on December 10th? Not Blues hockey. We're talking about what Mo's doing at the winter meetings, which look nice where they're at in Texas. That right there makes me wonder, okay, how would he view St. Louis? Not just where are they as an organization winning-wise, because they are in the midst of a refresh.
It's a totally fair point.
And his agent, of course, Nolan Arenado's agent, has probably seen all of the media coverage for his struggles over these last few years.
That's why, like, when
I
you
would say
Cleveland,
that would be something positive, because Nolan's struggles have been covered more than fair. If he had these exact same struggles in New York, dude, whoa, boy, would he have been absolutely crushed.
Yeah, and there's and you think about
it's
that, like
here.
To the point here in St. Louis on Arenado, there's a decent chunk of the fan base that still wants Arenado, right?
Yeah.
New York, I don't know. He would be
have
ran
you seen
out
some
of
of
town.
the reactions, for example, to Juan Soto leaving the Yankees?
They're just casually burning his jersey.
Have you seen the reactions to Aaron Judge struggling at times in the postseason in recent years? Yeah, New York would be a definite no. I would, if I'm him, just putting myself in his shoes where I'm like
Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland or Tampa. Yeah. Those would be the two spots that I would go. I know they can develop young pitching. I've seen it happen before. Terry Francona was great at it. Now I've got a former catcher as my manager in Cleveland. And then in Tampa Bay, like, here are the 75 pitchers that we've developed.
Yeah, and here's our 7,500 fans if they come out to this game.
That's a good point. They're playing at a AAA stadium. Yeah. Maybe Tampa's not the one that I'm going to be interested in next year.
It's going to be
Cleveland. Cleveland makes sense. I think Arizona would be another one that I would look at if I wanted to be closer to the coast, which is an easier way to get over to Japan if he wants to. Those would probably be the two that would be top of mind to me. Yeah. St. Louis would be, though, on that. Milwaukee would be there. I think the Royals would be on there. The Reds would be a really interesting one.
I think the Royals would be there. I think the Royals would probably be ahead of the Cardinals.
If you're him, climate controlled in Milwaukee, comfortable summer. Now it hit me. It just hit me.
All right.
Like a ton of bricks. He's gonna be a freaking Brewer.
That's
They're gonna trade Devin Williams, get off of the Woodruff contract. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You got to be.
You still so confident that the Cardinals are going to win the NL Central now?
No, not anymore. Suddenly, this changed everything for me.
We really poured gasoline on that and then put a big bucket of water on it,
That water put it out quick, too.
Oh, man.
I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to say the
He's
Cardinals
gonna be
get
a
him.
Brewer.
No, he's going to be a Cardinal. Cardinals. You're going to sell him on the city.
I think he's going to be a Padre.
Coming
Coming up in 15 minutes.
Are you kidding me? Mike Schilt is the manager. You saw how he handled KK?
It
There's no way that's happening.
feels like Padres written all over it.
Yeah.
Nope.
I think
And they can sell it as, hey, it's a smaller market. It's like it doesn't get the same media coverage as LA. That's the way they're going to sell it.
One taste of toasted Ravs, he's in. Most brought some with him to Texas.
You think so?
Said everything's bigger in Texas. These are better in St. Louis.
Okay.
This is a selling point. And then he shows him a picture of the zoo.
Pitch.
What are you
Just bring
talking?
Newbar with him to the meetings.
That one's
I
already
do
happened.
wonder if that helps.
Newt's already
It can't
called him.
hurt, but
Because everybody on Team Japan loved Newbar, and he was on Team Japan during the WBC.
all right, coming up in 15 minutes. Should the Blues be following something that the Blackhawks are doing?
What?
Feels like a team that I would not want to try to emulate right now, considering they fired everybody and their team is horrible.
You're crazy.
But we'll talk
Joke
about
to
that
them, we beat
coming
them
up in
there.
about 15 minutes or so. But coming up next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK, and it is time to unlock your inner champion. The place to do so is at Victory Men's Health. You can check them out today at victorymenshealth.com, whether it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet, especially coming up with the New Year's resolutions, to low testosterone issues, if you got erectile dysfunction, they could potentially help you out with that over at Victory Men's Health. It is a crazy easy process. Go to their website, victorymenshealth.com. In the top right corner, you'll see a tab that says Book Now. You click on that, put in your name, email, phone number, tell them BK with 101 ESPN sent you, and tell them how they can unlock your inner champion today. I told you about some of the things that they can do for you. Again, weight loss goals, low testosterone, erectile dysfunction. They also have red light therapy programs that they can help you with. They've got some really cool vitamin infusions that they can tell you all about as well. At that first appointment, they'll talk with you. They'll take all of your levels to find out where you're at, especially on testosterone. There's a wide range for normal for men. So they'll help you out with all of that. Find out a little bit more about you to be able to unlock your inner champion. It's at Victory Men's Health and victorymenshealth.com. All right, with Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's time for some NFL quick hitters. It was a little bit of a blah week in the NFL. There were a few games that were really noteworthy, including the Thursday night game, Packers versus Lions. Sunday Night Football was fun with the Chiefs, once again, winning on the final play against the Chargers. Game of the week was T-Bone's Rams coming out with a win against the Bills. Let's get into last night's game, Alex. Bengals end up getting that win against the Dallas Cowboys, and it was in dramatic fashion. Did you guys watch this?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Cowboys punt. It's kind of shit. It's like blocked, and then it hits one of their players like 15, 20 yards down the field. Bengals are able to pick it up. Just brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Watching Chris Collinsworth on the Manning cast react to that was just pure enjoyment.
Genuinely unbelievable. We're still out on the Bengals, right?
Yes.
Quit. Stop it. Stop it.
Can I read you their schedule first?
No, I don't need to know what their schedule is.
Do we think they're going to beat Tennessee?
I don't know. I saw Tennessee look pretty good against Jackson.
Come on. We think you're going to beat Tennessee, right?
Yes, but I'm not 100% convinced, but yes.
Cleveland?
Yeah, not 100%, but yes.
No, that one's up in the air.
Denver?
No.
I think it's a 50-50 game. It's at home.
Stop it already. Stop it.
And finally, it comes down to a Pittsburgh game in the final week of the season. So hold on, before you answer that so definitively. Pittsburgh might be locked into their spot in the playoffs at that point in time. And if they are, here come the Bengals.
Brandon, stop it.
Is there any chance they could get in at 9-8?
No.
Because that's what it would be if you finish the season 4-0, winning 5 straight down the stretch. There's no way, right? No way? Broncos are 8-5 right now. They would have that win head-to-head against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I say no way.
I say no way.
I think you got to get to 10, and they can't do that.
Yeah, and I don't think this team goes 4-0 either.
Yeah, I definitely don't believe that as well.
Yeah. You were a...
Broncos could lose 3 of their last 4. That's totally in play.
You were a jacked up special teams.
And they would not have the head-to-head win in this scenario.
You were a jacked up special teams play away from losing that. Okay. That's not like the Kansas City Chiefs winning and it's not based on luck. They're driving down the field. That was a based off of luck game. And I don't think that happens for 4 more.
Yeah. And their defense is so bad, like, Cooper Rush still put 20 on them yesterday, right? And Cooper Rush looked terrible. Jameis Winston, though a backup quarterback, we've seen Jameis can play really well. I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns put up like 27 or 30 points on the Bengals.
I'm with you.
Stop
it.
Just watch out.
You don't believe what
you're saying.
This might be the time where...
You did this last time, and you said they were going undefeated the rest of the way, and then they go out and lose.
My biggest fear as a Chiefs fan is the Chiefs getting the 2 seed and the Bengals finding a way to get in as that 7 seed.
I wouldn't worry about that. The Bills screwed that up.
They're the boogeyman, man. I don't know. Chiefs could lose 2 of the next 3. It wouldn't surprise anybody. They've got the Browns on the road with that pass rush going up against their left tackle situation right now. That could be a disaster waiting to happen. Houston, I think they'll win at home. At Pittsburgh and at Denver to finish things out. Those are not easy games on the stretch. 3 of those last 4 are very much losable games for the Chiefs on the road. All right, let's get into this.
That was fun.
How many teams do you guys believe should be looking for their quarterback after this season? Got to move on from their current situation at the quarterback position. How many teams do you guys feel like are in that category? You want to go division by division?
Yeah, because I'm doing that right now in my head.
AFC East. Just the Jets?
Yeah. What? They got their guy. He's going into the darkness retreat again. Yes, just the Jets.
Just the Jets.
How do you guys feel about the Steelers?
I think they got their guy.
They're fine.
Yeah.
One of their 2 is their guy. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm running it back.
It's not Fields.
Yeah, it's Wilson. Well, if Wilson beat him out this year, Fields' life in the NFL is as a backup.
I thought Fields looked fine before Wilson took over, so.
I think it's Wilson. I think he's there until he retires.
What about the Browns?
Oh, they are looking for their quarterback.
They can't look for their quarterback.
They can't, but they can't, but they're secretly looking for their quarterback.
Yeah, sure. Anybody better than the guy that they got, but
I saw he was dining in L.A. Man, good for him on Sunday.
Dining?
Yeah.
Oh, I think you said dying in L.A. I'm like, that's a weird thing to say he's doing.
AFC South. Just the Titans? Colts, Texans, Jaguars still good with what they got?
I mean, if you're the Jaguars, I'd say I'm looking, but I can't because of the contract extension I just gave him. So,
just the Titans. Las Vegas.
AFC West, Vegas.
Raiders. Yeah. Well, we know they will be.
NFC East. Just the Giants?
G-Man.
I'd say the Cowboys too, but you're stuck with that, so sure.
Yeah, they can't get out of that contract. And the NFC North.
I don't think anybody.
No, I think they're good.
I think so, too. J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
We agree he's the guy, not Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold just threw 5 touchdowns.
That's been a conversation this week nationally.
I mean,
I'm wondering, do you re-sign Sam Darnold?
A little tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not rushing to get J.J. McCarthy in the game.
I mean, they could trade him, technically. If they wanted to sign Sam Darnold and trade
I got
J.J.
11
McCarthy,
wins
you could
with
do
Sam
that.
Darnold. Why wouldn't I be investigating this?
I think Sam Darnold has been more like average-ish in his weapons. Like, look at that supporting cast, man. Other than Detroit, maybe Cincinnati, you can make an argument the Vikings are a top 3 to 5 at a minimum supporting cast in the NFL. TJ Hawkinson, the 2 receivers with Addison and Justin Jefferson, and Aaron Jones is a really good running back, and you add in the fact that you've got an excellent play-calling head coach. It's a really good situation to be in if you're Sam Darnold.
Like, I wouldn't doubt.
I think J.J. McCarthy could do something similar next year.
I would not extend Sam Darnold because I agree. I think he's been kind of average-ish. I would either turn the reins over to J.J. McCarthy or you have Daniel Jones on your practice squad. And I wouldn't be shocked if Daniel Jones had to start next year if he could put up decent numbers.
Next one, NFC South.
Can I say all of them?
Saints, I think, are the only
Tampa's
one.
not. I think it's Saints, too.
Yeah.
Because Falcons, they've got Penix, or they're stuck with Cousins, however you want to view it. But I think it's the Saints, and that's it, because I think Bryce Young's moved himself into, I deserve another season to be viewed as the
Aren't the
franchise
Saints
quarterback.
kind of stuck, too? I mean, you're searching,
I think
but
they can get out of it, but they have so many cap issues that it has to be a young guy.
yeah,
If they're gonna get
I
out
would
of
say
it.
it's just that one.
How do we feel about Seattle?
I think Geno's the guy.
I think Geno's fine for him right now. I mean, sure, if
They've
I
got to
could,
re-sign him. He's a free agent after this year.
I just don't think
That's
you're going
why
to
I
find
asked.
an upgrade over Geno. You're not
so
going to be
too.
drafting in a prolific spot to get one. Frankly, there's not enough in this draft.
What about if Sam Darnold is available?
I
Do you
would
feel
stick
like
with
Sam
Geno.
Darnold would be an upgrade over Geno?
I would stick with Geno.
I think it's too close to where I would just stick with the guy that's worked there.
One of the issues is age. Geno's, 35?
Something like that, yeah. The quarterbacks will last till they're 40. I'm in on Geno staying in Seattle. Outside of that, I don't think anybody else is looking for a quarterback outside of whatever the hell the Rams think they're doing.
I was about to say, do you think the Rams are going to be looking for a quarterback this offseason?
They shouldn't be, but I'm shocked that they haven't been willing to give Stafford a contract extension yet, and they didn't want to do more than just this year with him. So I thought they were in on Dak, but now that Dak's got his contract, I'm assuming they're just going to stick with Stafford.
All right, so that's 6 teams that we just put together that are interested in quarterbacks going into this offseason. Are there going to be 6 quarterbacks worth getting this offseason?
No.
And I think we were a little conservative.
What's the free agent class even look like?
Geno,
Darnold.
Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields. It's kind of it. And then a bunch of the backups like Drew Lock, those guys.
Oh,
that are
Zach
always
Wilson.
out
You
there
guys didn't even
pretty
say Zach Wilson.
often. There was a reason for that, bud.
Trey Lance. Come on, guys. You're
forgot-
missing all these prolific
Some
names.
of those guys were still in the league.
And then it becomes the quarterback class, right? You got Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, and then Jalen Milroe, and
Shador's
the
really
bladder
the
that
only-
is the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Shador's the only one that's really worth it.
This might be the year I punt on quarterbacks and just be like, one more year.
I feel which one of these teams is in the saddest state of affairs right now?
The Saints.
Jets, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Giants, Saints.
I think Saints.
Saints.
Really?
They keep denying what
I
they
would go
should.
Browns because at least these other teams, like, there's the possibility that
But if
you
I'm
can
the
go out and get
Browns,
the guy.
don't I just like go to Jameis Winston and be like, hey, you want to come back? Like, what's he making? $5 million right now? You want to come back for
Jameis,
$10 million?
that's another one that we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
I think Jameis should get a starting job.
If I'm Cleveland, I bring him back, give him a little bit of bump and pay, and say you're the starter.
Yeah. Problem is, ownership won't do that.
I know, but
Because he can take a starting job, like you said,
So-
BK. I mean, he's a perfect guy.
Why
Like
not
if you're
go
the
to
Raiders,
Vegas?
go to do what they tried with Minshew.
Ooh, yeah.
Where it was, let Minshew cook, and then it was, Minshew can't throw to his wide receivers. Winston makes a ton of sense for them, and he should get a starting job because he's played really well for the Cleveland Browns. To me, though, still the saddest state of affairs is the Saints, just because they're stuck not just at quarterback, but everywhere on their roster.
They're so bad.
Because they should have rebuilt like 4 years. When I started this show with you guys in 2021, I was claiming that they should be rebuilding then. And they've still denied it and still been putting it on the credit card. And the bill's due soon.
yeah.
Oh, it's
no,
due.
it's not. No,
it's now.
They just keep on putting that
January
down.
1st, that bill is due for
Yeah.
them.
And they should enter that rebuild then. But
And they're looking at it and then looking at what they have available right now in the checking account, and they're saying, these do not compute. I don't know how we get there, but can I file for bankruptcy? I do declare.
I file bankruptcy! Michael,
Coming
you
up in
can't just
15
say
minutes, let's dive into the junk drawer. But coming up next, should the Blues be following the Blackhawks lead on pushing a prospect? I was going to tell you why that might be the case. Coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's, the perfect holiday destination for you and the family. Why? One, because of that perfect combination of frozen custard and add in Christmas trees. Their parking lot off of Chippewa is filled with different Christmas trees, fragrant firs, pine trees that you can walk around the parking lot and you could pick out that Christmas tree for your house. Plus, you can build those holiday traditions. Maybe it's just walking around and eating some famous frozen custard and just enjoying the holiday season. They've got Christmas wreaths as well. And while you're there, you can also purchase that frozen custard and bring it home with you, and you could keep it for all the holidays coming up on the parties that you're going to be having. And for a limited time, you could buy 3 quarts and get a jumbo container of toppings for free. Also, while you're out there, get some Christmas shopping done. Walk to the gift shop across the parking lot at Ted Drew's, where you could get apparel, you could get souvenir, you could get gift cards, all of it at Ted Drew's famous frozen custard off of Chippewa. So go start the holiday traditions with your family and friends at Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. It really is good, guys and gals.
Tanner Hendricks here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Vancouver Canucks. And we'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. This Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. And Alex is going to make the case that the Blues should be following the path of a team that right now is tied for the worst record in the Western Conference.
All right. See, I don't like how you framed this one. This is just another opportunity for you to just swat down one of my stats again.
Well, listen, the Chicago Blackhawks have 20 points on the season, which is tied for the worst in all of hockey. So when you can follow their plan, you got to do it. Alex, can you explain this for me?
We're all about teamsmanship here. Great teammates here at 101 ESPN, and this is a trash move by you, man.
He threw me under the bus on Friday.
This is a trash move by you.
Yeah, it never happens the other way around.
No.
So it's,
well,
it's
you're the one that preaches to us. Deflect the blame, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not advocating for this. I'm just bringing up something that I saw Emily Kaplan tweet out yesterday.
Okay.
For the Blackhawks fans wondering when they might see top prospect Frank Nazar, for people that don't know, he was the one drafted. I think he was a couple of picks ahead of Dalibor Dvorsky, or I'm sorry, the year prior to Dalibor Dvorsky. Nothing imminent, but we're getting close. Chicago wants its prospects to over-ripen in the AHL. Believe the initial call-up plan for Nazar was later this season, but timeline has moved up because of how well he's playing in Rockford. That's from Emily Kaplan. And the reason that I got to wondering about this is Frank Nazar, first season in the American Hockey League. I believe he's 20 years old.
He's 20, yeah. He did play a couple of years in college at the University of Michigan.
So he's a year older than Dalibor Dvorsky, different path than Dalibor Dvorsky because, of course, Dvorsky was overseas. But Nazar's got 11 goals and 24 points so far in 20 games for the Rockford Ice Hogs. Dvorsky is 1 goal shy of him and 6 points shy of him in, I think, 3 more games played than Nazar. And I bring this up because if that's how, because they had the same stance as the Blues did. They're in a longer rebuild than what the Blues are in, and they really find it necessary to keep guys in the minors so that they're ready for the NHL. But if they view this and say, hey, this is a centerman that we think can get some, can benefit from playing at the NHL level now, he's doing everything we've asked him to do in the AHL, do we consider giving him a couple of reps at the NHL level? And this was the other thing. This was where I told you to hold on to your butts. So Steve Ellis, who does prospects for Daily Faceoff, put this article out. Dalibor Dvorsky having himself quite the stretch. 19-year-old Slovak forward riding a 7-game point streak, registering a single point in every single game. Thunderbirds are 6-1 in that span and have won almost every one of the games by a single goal, so Dvorsky's play is important. He's on pace to put up 60 points. The World Juniors might affect this, but he would be one of 6 players in AHL history to put up 60 points under the age of 20. Would you like the names of those people?
I was about to ask if you had them, and I'm so glad that you did.
This is why I said hold on to your butts, BK.
This is what you needed to do yesterday, Alex. Great stat.
See, another insult. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 guys out of this because one was from the 1940s, one was from the 1970s.
Now I want to hear them.
Fleming McKell and Guy Chouinard.
Oh, those are so made up.
I guarantee neither of you guys know anything about those players. You ready?
Yeah.
Hold on to the butts.
Could have been 2004, the answer would have been.
Are you done?
Yeah, sorry.
Patrice Bergeron.
No, I know him.
Patrick Elias.
I don't know.
Another, I think he was either Slovak or a Czech player, played for the New Jersey Devils, won a couple Stanley Cups. Really good player. JJ Peterka, plays for the Buffalo Sabres right now.
I really don't know him.
Who was it?
JJ Peterka. He's actually a really young stud right now for the Buffalo Sabres. It just sucks he plays for Buffalo. And I need a drum roll. Mikko Rantanen.
Oh, okay.
So 4 guys that now.
Yeah.
I don't believe they should bring up Dvorsky yet. But I do wonder if this is how a Chicago Blackhawks organization is viewing a guy that they wanted to ripen in the AHL, but he's dominating play down there. Once you wrap up the World Juniors tournament that Dvorsky is going to.
Do you know when that is?
It's mid-December, so a couple of weeks from now, I believe, and the tournament ends around New Year's Eve. Yeah. I really do wonder if he goes out there and dominates at the World Juniors once again, if you give him at least a taste of the NHL. Not where he's up here full term. Maybe you let him have a couple of games, and if it looks good, you keep going. If it doesn't look good, then you go back to the AHL to ripen up once again.
I think it's a really interesting proposition. I would not do that.
It's kind of the line of thinking for me, too.
I want him to be up long term. If he's coming up, it's over. Like, he's going to be in the lineup every single night, and there should be no deviating from that plan unless it is absolutely necessary, the way that it was this past year, in my opinion, with Walker, where you had to send him down. It was just time. I look more post-All-Star break, or post-Four Nations break, I guess this year is technically the way that it is. I don't want him having that full 2 weeks off. Mid-February, from February 8th to the February 22nd, the Blues do not play a single game. I don't want Dvorsky being off for those 2 weeks. Now, they could technically send him back down during that time.
Totally.
Give him that opportunity. But I would rather him just, when he comes up, he's ready to go. Although, to, I guess, argue against myself here, a benefit of that would be, hey, come up here maybe the few weeks prior to that Four Nations break, and that'll be a little bit of a breather opportunity for him. Hey, get a taste of this. See what the schedule's like. See what it's like to be on the ice against these guys. And then take what you've learned, go down to the AHL for a 2-week stretch, and dominate for a couple of weeks. Get yourself back up to the NHL post that break, and then get that opportunity. So maybe that's the move, and so maybe it is like late January.
So I'm glad you said that, because looking at a couple of these guys, Patrice Bergeron, now he played, I think it was like 10 or 12 games at the end of the previous season, then played in the AHL and then was brought back up. Rantanen was the exact same. Got about 13 games at the NHL level, played the rest of the season in the AHL, and then was up full time. I don't think it's a bad thing to let a young player get a taste of what he's to expect in the NHL, because training camp and preseason games, that's nothing. That's not the NHL level. You got to know what the wear and tear is. And you don't know. This could be a guy that says, hey, I figured it out at the AHL level. And now, a lot of times, if you talk to players that have played in the American Hockey League, they say the AHL is pure chaos. The NHL is more like a symphony, to where it flows a lot easier. So if your game is playing well at the AHL level, does it match at the NHL level? Again, I'm not saying that do the Blackhawks route, because frankly, that's a dumb route to do. But if you've got a guy that the Blackhawks view as a part of their future, and they say, hey, we wanted him to stay down there until after the trade deadline, but he is dominating right now at the American Hockey League level, let's get him up here. If you're the Blues and you see this guy putting up 10 goals in 23 games and is playing well as a centerman, why wouldn't you want to get a look at it?
I would add this. There's an obvious spot for him in the lineup right now. With the way that things are situated currently, that third line with Bolduc and Holloway would be a perfect line for Dvorsky to come in and play on. It's not going to play like 20 minutes at night or anything crazy like that. He would add a speed element, a creation element that, listen, we all love Sonny, but let's be honest. He doesn't look like the Oscar Sundqvist of old right now. He doesn't look like the same guy. It does look like he's lacking a little bit of speed. Hell, the coach said that the other night. He said, hey, going up against Edmonton, one of the reasons why I put Holloway on that line with Sonny and Bolduc is because we needed that injection of speed to be able to go out there against this specific team. They're going with that again, it looks like, going into tonight's game. So I think there's a spot for him in the lineup whenever it is that he is truly, unquestionably ready for the NHL. I'm certainly not rushing this one, because this is one you cannot get wrong. He is so incredibly important to whatever the future is going to be of this current building process. Like, he is to the Blues. It sounds strange because I don't know if it's a perfect comp, but he is to the Blues basically what Nolan Gorman is to the Cardinals. And the reason why I
would argue he's Jordan Walker to the Cardinals. I think they need him to be a star.
Like, Thomas is the guy that has to lead you through this. He's got to be the number one center, playing in all situations, like all of that, right? I would say Dvorsky is the one that raises your ceiling, because as that number 2 center, if he's like a 1B, that means that you can be a potential real contender. And that's what Gorman is to the Cardinals, where you've got that left-handed pop that every single contender in Major League Baseball has that specific elements to their lineup. And Gorman's the guy that gives you that. You have nobody else that profiles the way that Gorman can, of being a 35-plus goals or 35-plus home run hitter. So that would be my comp there. But you have nobody else that profiles as a second-line center. Nobody. Inside of the organization or otherwise.
By the way,
he's the guy that gives you that out.
Schwartz did this also. He was 19, 20 years old, 33 games to start the season in the American Hockey League, and then played the final 45 games in the NHL for him. team that was in a similar spot as well. Remember, 2010, 2011, 2012, that Doug Armstrong reference, that was the second year of our first full season of Ken Hitchcock, to where they had the roster and they brought Schwartz up halfway through that season.
In the event, let's just get real reckless here.
Ooh.
In the event that
More
the
gasoline? I
Blues
thought we were out.
decided to go ahead and do this, assuming nothing changes between now and then, which it will. What are you doing with your roster? Because you have to make a move. You would have to either send somebody through waivers, make a trade, whatever.
Yeah.
Is Texier a guy that you're okay sending
I was
through
just
waivers?
about to say the
Probably.
name. Texier is a guy for me that would go.
Yeah, because my fourth line's not going to be disrupted.
Because I think the move is
Sundquist
either
is probably the
Texier
healthy
or
scratch.
Walker.
Walker's not going anywhere.
I agree with you.
That line stays there. Sundquist would just become a healthy scratch, and then, I would probably do a Texier through waivers and hope he doesn't get claimed, because at some point, I would imagine there's going to be another roster spot available depending on what this team does, whether it's Matthew Joseph going through waivers or Brandon Saad. Like, if he becomes a healthy scratch, there will be more roster moves. But as it stands now, Texier is not going to be in this game once again. He played in a game, they didn't like it, he hasn't touched the ice. So, that would probably be my roster move.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, why is Dvorsky more important than Snuggerud? This might be nitpicking here, but my personal opinion on the matter, you have nobody else that profiles as a second-line center. If Snuggerud doesn't become the player that you need him to be, you've got other outs on the wings. You've already got Neighbors, you've got Booch, you've got Kyrou, you've got Bolduc, you've got Holloway. You've got 5 wingers right now that I could reasonably say are top 6 wingers long-term. You don't have anybody else that could be a second-line center, a top 6 center for you in future seasons. So that's why, to me, Dvorsky is even more important long-term than Snuggerud. Although, if Snuggerud reaches his ultimate potential of being this 40-goal sniper, that is the single skill set that they probably most need long-term as well. So you can make the case for him, but I think if they reach the floor argument would be for Dvorsky. The ceiling argument is probably for...
And that's why when you made the comp, I see Dvorsky as a Walker and Snuggerud as a Gorman, because that upside you're hoping you get the 40 goals. But regardless, the 1-2 punch that the Cardinals are hoping for, that's this 1-2 punch that the Blues are hoping for. You've got a guy who's doing well in the AHL, and for people that haven't been paying attention, Snuggerud's tied for the second most goals in college hockey right now. So, you've got 2 guys that are doing it well on their levels at some point, and Snuggerud you can't do anything about until the end of the season. But at some point, they've got to taste the NHL.
The truth is, Thomas and Kyrou were what you hope long-term Dvorsky and Snuggerud can become.
Yeah, because the Thomas and Kyrou are what Vladimir Tarasenko and Jaden Schwartz were in that rebuild or retool, and then the Thomas that came in for a team that was ready to contend is what the Snuggerud and the Dvorsky are. You got to make sure your roster's aligned, though, correctly.
He's Alex Ferrario, that's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Hey, the morning after crew is going to be at the all-new Hot Shots on Lindbergh for TMA Christmas Party on Thursday, December the 12th. From 7 to 9 o'clock, it features Santa Doug. He's giving out presents every 10 minutes, including Blues tickets, signed Blues pucks, concert tickets that include Post Malone and Jelly Roll, Kendrick Lamar and SZA, Alex, Jack White, Disturbed, Linkin Park, and more.
Chaperone?
Chaperone is not included in this. Best I can
Sorry, buddy.
tell. I did watch, by the way, the Sabrina Carpenter Netflix Christmas special. Did you see that?
Do you think that I watched?
Shockingly good. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Go back to your read.
Go back to your
Okay,
read. Sorry.
she's not going to have tickets that are included in this either. However, Hot Shots will also have TMA holiday-themed menu with shots and drink specials throughout the night. Also bringing new and unwrapped toy for Annie's Hope. Come celebrate the holidays with TMA and the brand new Hot Shots on Lindbergh on December the 12th, starting at 7 o'clock. So you didn't watch the Sabrina Carpenter holiday special on Netflix?
No, dude. But I've had so many people send me their Wrapped that had Sabrina Carpenter in the top 5. So congrats to all of you.
Wow, I bet
T-Bone,
they were
have you seen
shocked.
it?
No, I just saw
You
that it was
planning
on
to
there.
watch it?
No, I just saw it was on there yesterday when I was scrolling through Netflix.
No, man. We're listening to Dan and Shay Christmas these days right now.
Oh, are you?
Girls are obsessed with it.
See, I feel like do your girls like Sabrina Carpenter?
No. We listen to good music.
I feel like Sabrina Carpenter's pretty talented.
To each his own.
No?
I don't know much.
What about Inna? I've heard Inna's good. Sorry, SZA. SZA.
She's a St. Louis native, man. Can you get this right? Did you know that?
I don't pronounce it SZA, though.
is?
I pronounce it
I'm so lost to who we're talking about
SZA.
anymore.
Good Lord, man.
This is the junk drawer segment. We haven't even gotten there.
101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. So Jason Kelce was asked a question the other day about what the butthole in the armpit of America is. His answer to that question...
Hold up. Was that on the actual broadcast? Mm-hmm. They legitimately framed the question, what is the armpit and butthole?
Well, they were doing that Simpsons-themed broadcast last night, so they were previewing that.
But they said armpit and butthole.
Yeah.
Man, television has gotten wild these days.
Said, this is the state of Texas. Also, the butthole and the armpit of America. The co-host then shouted, "Whoa, whoa!" And Kelce said, "It was a joke." It wasn't a joke, I don't think. I think he was serious. Where have you guys visited that you would consider?
I mean, in terms of just body parts, he's right. Like that would be.
Let's go with the armpit of America.
You don't want to do the butthole?
Nah, I feel like that's.
You don't want to do the butthole?
No.
Okay. Well, let's break this down a little bit. Like what is the criteria of being an armpit?
I mean, a place that you don't want to go.
It's
nasty,
smelly,
gross,
hairy,
bad.
Forget to put deodorant
just
on.
overall, like an unpleasant experience.
New Jersey.
I was going
Where at?
Oh, I don't know. I just heard New Jersey's kind of.
You've never even been?
No, I've just heard it's dirty and I've heard it's smelly. So yeah, New Jersey.
Okay.
I would go South Dakota, entire state.
Just all of it.
Yeah, we did a whole vacation throughout most of South Dakota. You know, you hit Mount Rushmore, you hit the Badlands was there, a missile silo's there. Like you hit all of it. And that's the armpit.
I don't know if I've been anywhere that I would consider an armpit. You know?
I've got two for you. Actually, three, but I'll go with two.
I only go to places I like.
So we drove through Mississippi on the way to Orlando. I got to tell you.
Oh, yeah, that's
not
a good one.
whole lot that I enjoyed about that drive.
We did a golf trip to Tunica, Mississippi, and you're right. Kind of, I would frame that more as a butthole. I mean, it's the lower part of the country.
Through, I mean, you get through like a little bit of Georgia. You're like, okay,
love Georgia.
Beautiful scenic views. You get into Florida, and while there are some spots that I'm like, I'm not sure this is like ideal. There are places in Florida that are fantastic to go to visit. Mississippi, I can't necessarily say that about. Oklahoma, another one that I would go with. Have you guys ever been through Oklahoma? I hope not. Not a whole lot to do there. Oklahoma City's all right. Decent. Not a ton to do. Can understand why Kevin Durant decided, you know what, not sure I'm going to spend the rest of my career here. But it's okay. It's at least clean, decent.
We've had a couple people say Branson. No! Branson is not an armpit.
I would also add Boston. I did not enjoy my time in Boston.
Oh, really?
I didn't enjoy it either, man. You're right.
You've been to Boston?
Yeah, for the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh,
it was trash, man. They were so pissy because they lost. They closed all of their bars at 10 o'clock at night.
It's fine. It's semi-pretty. Like the scenery is okay.
I think the people
that would define an armpit.
I think the people there are more of an armpit in Boston.
And they don't use seasonings. Like all of their stuff feels like it was made in the 1700s, and they forgot to update anything for what we currently have in 2024.
I almost got to go just to experience.
Someone said Cleveland is the armpit, Louisiana is the butthole.
Oh,
I've never been to
New Orleans
Louisiana.
Is amazing.
Yeah, I've never been, but I've heard it's incredible. So I don't disagree with that.
I totally disagree with
Someone
that.
said this is a stupid discussion, and I say, no, it is not.
No, that's true. That's true.
Stop texting in Branson. It is not an armpit.
I mean,
look, to each his
let's be
own.
honest.
You know, it's a fun spot occasionally.
you don't believe that.
No, I do. The golfing's great. Everything else is kind of an armpit.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm like, there's got to be a hidden agenda in here somewhere.
Everything else is an armpit, but the golfing's great.
Coming up next, Joel Wolf is Nolan Arenado's agent. He's also Roki Sasaki's agent. We talked about the Sasaki side of things a little bit ago. We do want to get to what Nolan Arenado's agent had to say about Arenado's view on his potential trade from the St. Louis Cardinals. We'll let you hear that next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care, making people comfortable since 1926. And I need to tell you about the maintenance agreement because this is going to help keep your old HVAC system alive. It's done so on 2 of my older units. The first house we bought in 2016 was a 26-year-old unit and lasted us the 4 years that we lived there thanks to Classic Air Care. Because you sign up, you become a part of their maintenance agreement, and twice a year, Classic Air Care comes out to check the unit springtime in the fall time before you turn the heater on, before you turn the air conditioner on. They check it, they clean it, they fine-tune it, make sure it's good to go to get you through the seasons. But if something pops up between those 2 visits a year, you on their priority list to come out and take care of whatever issues arise. You get knowledgeable technicians, incredible customer service that is always there to take care of you, your family, and that HVAC system. So give them a call today. Tell them Alex Ferrario sent you and ask about that maintenance agreement. Or if you're in the market for a brand new HVAC system, they've got financing available for you as well. Check them out online too, classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, it is the winter meetings down in Dallas, I think, this year.
Burr.
Is it Dallas?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, where Jason Kelsey called the butthole of America. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the winter meetings.
Woo! Yeah. They're heating up as Joel Wolf, Nolan Arenado's agent, also Roki Sasaki's agent, has been meeting with the media this morning. And he was asked about Arenado and his openness to a trade, I guess is the way that I would categorize it, because he's not requested a trade.
Willingness.
There you go. He has not demanded a trade, but he is open to the idea of being traded. So here is what Nolan Arenado's agent said. Quote, Nolan is willing to consider a trade, but he is not going to go just anywhere. He added that the list of acceptable destination is, quote, bigger than you would think, end quote, and was emphatic that it is not constrained by geography. My assumption is that is basically him saying, hey, he doesn't just want to go to the Dodgers. He's open to going other places other than just Southern California. The Cardinals have given Wolf permission to be involved in the negotiation process. There are some specific teams that he is apparently going to be speaking to. He speaks to the front offices, the field staffs, working out the right fit. That process is, quote, ongoing. He then added that Nolan Arenado is looking for a team that he thinks can win now and consistently for the remainder of his career. He wants a team that has the throttle down, is what Joel Wolf categorized this as. So that's where we're at right now, Alex. According to Derek Gould of the Post-Dispatch, who reported this earlier today, there are about 5 teams that are legitimately interested and talking with the St. Louis Cardinals about Nolan Arenado. What do you make of all of this? Joel Wolf talking to the media, that's the agent for Nolan Arenado. He's been open about this, clearly open to the idea of being traded. I thought the most important thing that he said was that the list is potentially bigger than what people would anticipate, but did you latch on to something different?
That was probably mine, that the list is larger. I mean, like, if we're talking about 5 teams in this mix and geography's not involved, you're just trying to look at teams that have, like, sustained winning presence. And like, I don't really like, Arizona comes to mind. I don't even think they're in the market for a third baseman. But those types of teams, if that opens it up, because why I was so skeptical Nolan Arenado was going to get traded was it was the Dodgers or bust. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the Dodgers aren't going to do this unless they, take advantage of the Cardinals and basically king's ransom them to take everything. And now that availability is a wider margin for Nolan Arenado, at least from what the agent's discussing here, they always say where there's smoke, there's fire. And now that you got Joel Wolf stating this, John Mozeliak yesterday, it feels like a deal is imminent in terms of, like, they've got the framework of this. It's just making sure that everybody's on the same page before they pull the trigger. I think I'm most interested in what team he's interested in, because if it's not the Dodgers, if it's not the Yankees, then, like, what's this market that we're not thinking of?
So here's the list of teams that I think could make sense for Arenado. You guys tell me if there's any that you, like, vehemently disagree with from one side or the other, whether it's Arenado's side or the team side, okay? The Yankees, the Red Sox, the Tigers, Houston, Seattle, Philly, San Diego, the Dodgers. That would be the list of teams that I think at least makes sense, theoretically speaking, for both parties.
2 teams that I'm not sold on that list, Seattle. I don't know how he would view the Seattle Mariners.
Sure.
So I would say they're probably out, and it doesn't feel like I guess it does feel kind of like a Mariners move. I just don't know if he would want to go to Seattle. Hard to sell yourself on a winning window when they haven't won yet. And then the other one for me is the Astros, based on stuff that I heard yesterday in the Athletic Roundtable podcast, where they're already almost $12 million from the first luxury tax threshold. And it sounds like they don't want to get back to that spot, and they still are trying to re-sign Bregman. And even that sounds like it's a long shot if they don't get Bregman. If they still are at $12 million before that luxury tax, and I don't know if the Cardinals are going to eat a ton of money, I just don't know if you're going to have that match there in Houston.
That might be dependent on them moving somebody else, like moving Kyle Tucker, moving Framber Valdez,
Tucker
moving
for Arenado?
Presley.
Who says no?
We're going to get into him here in just a minute. But I think even if you were to take off a couple of those teams, it's noteworthy that there are so many options. And that's where I think this becomes a very likely thing that happens. Like, as of today, I would say my chips would be all in on Nolan Arenado being traded prior to the start of spring training. Do you guys agree with that? Or do you think there is still a scenario in which Nolan Arenado is a Cardinal?
Because this is going to come off like I'm a hypocrite. 2 weeks ago, I would have said absolutely not. I did say absolutely not. Now, yeah, I'm putting all my chips in the middle saying he's not going to be a Cardinal.
My one hiccup is the money. Like, if the Cardinals are truly in the city, if they believe they have to push all of this money out the door and they don't care what the return is, they're just, hey, this is a salary dump for us. It does limit to a degree some of the teams that are potentially going to take him on. Like, I think that would be problematic potentially for some of the teams that want to do stuff to improve their team around Nolan Arenado.
I think if it is just
Yankees, for example.
if it is just a pure salary dump, the only teams that then make sense are your big spenders, right? I mean, even the Yankees, though. The Yankees are clearly wanting to do a lot more
Boston
with their
feels like
roster.
a spot. If they don't get Bregman.
Boston still feels like they want to do a lot more with their roster. So it becomes very limited. That's why, like, I still think there's a scenario where he's a Cardinal going into spring training. I'm not, like, leaning that way. Like, I am now 80% he is going to be traded. I think there's a 20% chance, though, that he ends up still being a Cardinal by the time we get to spring training because of what you're talking about. The money situation is going to be very hard for them to try and get out the door.
All right, T-Bone mentioned that he was listening to a podcast yesterday with the Astros beat writer. His name is Chandler Rome. He writes about the team for The Athletic. He does an excellent job for them. He's as plugged in as any local beat writer is to their respective team. He had an update yesterday on The Athletic's MLB podcast talking about Alex Bregman and Kyle Tucker. And I thought it was interesting in regards to the Cardinals, not just for right now, but how they build in the future. T-Bone, let's take a listen.
They have leaked an offer that they gave Alex Bregman. There was no chance he was ever taking it. The offer that they leaked was 6 and 156. There was no chance he was going to take that. It's going to take probably in the $200 million range to get him. Kyle Tucker's he's going to approach $400 million next year because he's going into the market as a 28-year-old. They have no prayer of extending him. They have no prayer of signing him.
Okay, There's two really fascinating pieces of information there. One, sounds like Bregman's getting $200 million. And if that is the price for Alex Bregman, dude, that's going to go down as the worst contract signed this offseason. I like Bregman. I think he's a pretty good player. Good defensive third baseman. Yeah. Good defensive third baseman. The problem is Bregman might end up signing with like Detroit, for example, which is a team that cannot do what the Mets do, which is throw money at every problem possible. They do care how much they spend. So if he gets that, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Good defensive third baseman, 15% above league average offensively for his career. Good, not outstanding, but good. And that's going to age poorly because he's 31 years old, dude. That's nuts. Kyle Tucker getting $400 million. Kyle Tucker is an amazing baseball player. Absolutely spectacular. Way more athletic than I think people probably give him credit for. This is a guy that consistently is stealing like 25 to 30 bags a year when healthy. Offensively, he's like a 900 OPS type of player throughout the entirety of his career. He's awesome. And he's young. $400 million? That's where we're at? Dude, if this is what these kinds of players are going to get, I don't know how the Cardinals go out to the market in order to get their stars in the future. Like, forget just free agency. Even doing what they've previously done, where they trade for guys and then sign them to keep them around, is going to become increasingly more difficult. Because why is a player going to give up the right to hit free agency when they're signing for so much less here in St. Louis than they would be able to get elsewhere if this is going to be what the market is for those kinds of players in the future? The Cardinals are hitting this point where they're pivoting at a fascinating time because it's not just this reset. It's also, what does the next version of a winning and contending Cardinals team look like when this is what's happening around them? Baseball has shifted. This is a landscape change. And I feel like it's been happening now for like the last 2 to 3 years or so. But the Soto deal, and I think what is likely to happen with some of these key prized free agents over the next year or two, it is changing the market in a way that I don't know how the Cardinals keep up anymore. And I'm not saying that's a cape for them, guys, I promise you. But $400 million, $300 million, these kinds of deals are, the Cardinals do not do them. So unless they have a wholesale change philosophically, I don't know how they get their stars unless they develop them internally.
And it's funny because you hone in on the Kyle Tucker thing, and you're absolutely correct. Like, I look at the Alex Bregman thing. Like, the Cardinals are going to have real problems keeping guys in-house. What you just mentioned.
That's a good point.
Like, going out there and signing a free agent is one thing. Like, that's always been something I've been skeptical of with this Cardinals team. But now their problem is to what Mo's talking about. Like, well, we got to develop a star. Cool, you got to develop a star that can hit the major leagues very young, so you have that window of controllability to where he's able to help you contend. Because once that player, when he hits his stardom, goes to free agency or has the opportunity to, man, they're not going to sign for a hometown discount. People want to get paid now. And if there's $500 million floating around, you're going to have to buck up and pay the guy the money if you want to keep him.
And it goes even beyond that. It's also the supplementary pieces, right? So Lars Nootbaar got a couple of years left of control here in St. Louis. I think it's 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, of controllability. You know what that dude's going to get in free agency? $20+ million a year.
He'll get the Nimmo deal.
Yeah, $20+ million a year. And he's like a really solid major league player. You're not signing that if you're the Cardinals. He's not going to be here for that contract unless he signs it prior to hitting free agency and you buy out the arbitration years. But he's making so much right now via endorsement deals over in Japan that I'm not signing a deal before I hit free agency. I'm being supplemented with that income via the endorsements. I don't need to get that money up front. Nolan Gorman, if he ends up hitting 25 to 35 home runs a year and doesn't hit a ceiling, but just is a pure power hitter, that's a $15 million per year player. That's what those guys end up getting on the market. And by that point in time, when he hits free agency, maybe it's a $20 million a year player. Mason Wynn, what is he going to be worth if we just saw what Matt Chapman got at third base and he's a slightly above league average hitter? What is Mason Wynn going to be worth in the market? It's a really fascinating time, man, for the Cardinals to figure out, okay, how do we do this? How do we construct our roster in a way that is sustainable for us? And we set ourselves up for the future, but then we're able to capitalize on those individual seasons in which we really can push. I think things are about to change in a really significant way for the way that for the Cardinals and how they operate in future seasons. And I don't know how they adjust. I don't know what it's going to look like. But it's really compelling. I'm interested in finding out because it is going to be a storyline that we haven't seen in about 25 years.
Yeah, well, and why did you go out and hire a Chaim Bloom? because he's been a guy that's been in a division and fought with the heavyweights before with a small budget, right? With the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, I don't think they're going to go that far of, okay, well, we can't spend money, so we need to start operating like the Rays. But you're kind of trying to do Rays-esque with just a bigger budget, right? And you're trying to compete against big spenders. Now, they're not in your division, but they are in the National League. Like, there are 5 significant spenders in the National League right now. 4 of them have been doing it externally. One of them kind of did it from within. The Braves, the Phillies, the Mets, the Dodgers, and the Padres. That's 5 significant spenders in the National League. And you're going to have to find a way around that. And for me, I think it comes down to you're going to have to adjust philosophically. Now, I think where they're kind of stuck too, and this is why it's terrible timing for them, is they've got to get a longer-term future in place with their TV revenue, right? Sure, they've got the deal with FanDuel. That's only for 3 years, till 2028. And then there's the whole idea of Major League Baseball trying to go with the national package. And which one?
The national package. It's not going to happen.
Manfred's trying his best. I don't think they can do it either, but Manfred's determined on it.
The Yankees aren't getting out of their deal. Like, the Dodgers aren't getting out of their deal. Cubs aren't getting out of their deal. And you can't do this unless those teams are a part of it.
I agree.
The idea that Manfred is trying to put this together is nonsense. And I think he's a big part of what has gone wrong. I think Manfred's legacy is going to be completely ruined. It's going to be sullied by what happens with these TV deals. Because he's trying to push something that is completely off the table. There's no chance that the Yankees, the Cubs, or the Dodgers, while looking at what all of these teams are facing right now, will say to themselves, you know what we should do? Jump into that. The land of the unknown. Hell no, dude. If I'm one of those teams, I'm saying, dude, we are really comfortable right now. We're bringing in the money hand over fist every single season. We have no questions about what our revenues are going to be. There is no uncertainty here. We are happy. Our partners are happy. We're good. Y'all go do your thing. I'm not a part of that. And if you're Rob Manfred, you have nothing that you can do. You can't force them into going to a national TV product. It's based on the individual teams and what they decide to do. It's lunacy that they continue to be so focused on that. But
you're not fighting with me, because I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. It's one of the dumbest ideas Manfred's had, and he just floated the idea of a golden at-bat out there.
Whoa.
So I agree with that, but that's where it comes down to, right, is if you're the Cardinals, you can't really, even if you do change philosophy-wise of, okay, yeah, we need to adjust with the inflation of the game, and we have to be willing to go out and spend a $400 million, whether it be for a guy that's internally in our system. If Walker hits his stride, it becomes the Albert Pujols of the next generation. You know, you have to adjust with it as the game goes, but you can't adjust until you have a long-term certainty with what your revenues are. And they don't even have that now. Like, they've got a 3-year window. That's nothing compared to what they had on their previous deal, which was like a 15-year deal with Fox Sports Midwest at the time. So that's where it starts, is there. And I just don't know, going side of that, I just don't know if you'll ever see the DeWitts adjust to the modern game.
My honest opinion, I do not think that the RSN deal is going to get better. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I agree.
And that is part of what I'm talking about here, where the Cardinals are going to have to adjust in a meaningful way. And I know somebody on the text line said, and I think it was from the 314, guys, it's time for the DeWitts to go ahead and start spending. You have to spend in order to win. It's ridiculous for them to think that they can't. I suppose fair, but guys, I have been critical of them at times in the past for not spending to their full capabilities, having that like one move that they fall short of really going for it in any individual season. I can't criticize them for that right now. This is a time in which they should be tightening the belts a bit. This is a time when it's more than reasonable for them to be doing that. It's critical for them in the past, but now I'm projecting forward, right? Now we have to look at that. That is history now. Looking forward, this is probably the way they're going to have to operate. They will have to take that payroll back a bit. And the gap between them and honestly most teams and what the top spenders are about to be able to do is widening in a way that I'm not sure we've ever seen before in the history of Major League Baseball. And that is something that baseball is going to have to figure out if it's good for the game long term, if it can continue in that way. I think there's a chance that this is what leads to the next work stoppage. What we have seen over the last year or two and what we will likely see over the next year or two is probably going to cause some kind of a work stoppage in Major League Baseball, because the owners will want one thing, the players will want another thing. It will be going in diametrically opposed directions. I don't know how long they're going to be potentially a part of that, but we're watching it play out right now in real time.
And the other problem to that point is the owners are fighting themselves, right? because of what we're talking about. You got the smaller market owners that
You
are
got like
saying
6 at the top that
Yeah.
love the way the things are going, and the other 24 that hate it.
Yeah, and that's where not only will you have the fight between owners and players, you'll have the fight in the owners themselves,
Which is worse
where
when
it
it
gets
comes to the
interesting.
negotiations. That's how the NHL was that second time around, where it was the owners fighting within themselves before it was even worried about the player side.
And most notably, like, that means that they will not agree to what they want to do, which means that it's hard for the players to say, okay, can you take yes for an answer? Well, if the owners want different answers among themselves, I don't know where yes comes.
Might be best for baseball, too. Maybe you get the cap in the situation when you get to that point.
The players are going to say flat out no.
Yeah.
And that is where it comes. Because the owners will say, well, we want a cap. And the big market teams will say, well, no, we don't want a cap. And the smaller market teams, well, we have to have a cap. And then it becomes a question of the floor versus the ceiling and what all of that looks like. And that's going to take a lot of time to get figured out. And then the players are just going to be over here saying, no cap.
No cap, dog?
If you're a player and you see what Juan Soto just got, and you hear Kyle Tucker's getting $400 million, and Alex Bregman's getting $200 million, dude, this is a great system for us. It might not be great for all of the teams in the middle of America, but for us, this is excellent. Go what Aaron Judge just got. Look at what Shohei Ohtani just got. Look at what all of these dudes are getting paid, what Vlad Guerrero Jr. is likely to get next year. It's a crazy time for Major League
I
Baseball.
wonder why Rob Manfred's retiring.
Coming up next, Bet It or Forget It here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Bet It or Forget It. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are betting it or forgetting it here on 101 ESPN. Alex, bet it or forget it. Nolan Arenado is traded for a return that Cardinals fans are disappointed in.
Oh, bet it. I think anything that comes back in the Nolan Arenado, people are going to expect more because it's such a big name. Hopefully, they do their due diligence and listen to us knowledgeable individuals that are telling them it's not going to be a good return.
Oh, God.
Tony?
I got to put glasses on with how much tone just came out of your mouth.
Tony?
Oh my God.
Sorry, Kadarius a little bit, ladies and gentlemen.
Not a little bit,
down
a lot.
to people, telling them how smart you are. I mean, you just pulled a full beakhead.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I should have turned your mic off.
I learned from
there.
the best, I guess. No, I do think people are going to be underwhelmed because it's such a big name, and he was supposed to be the guy that helped this team win. And when you get a bunch of, or even one no-named back, people are going to look at, what are you doing, Mo? But in all intents and purposes, I'm going to look at it and say, great job. You got rid of it, and you opened up a spot at third base.
I'm 100% betting this because I think everybody, when they made the trade for Arenado, were like, what an incredible fleece job by Mo. All he gave up was essentially Austin Gomber and then a whole bunch of nobodies. And as BK has said, and you're right, they're going to get less for him and then what they gave up for him if they're not going to eat anything for him. So I can totally see where fans look at that trade and go, well, wait a minute. We just traded away a future Hall of Famer, an all-star, a guy that has been a consistent Gold Glove winner at third base that still has some value, but we didn't eat any money on it and we got nothing in return. How does that help us in a retool? So, yeah, I will bet it that people will be majorly disappointed by the return.
Agree. I think the one scenario in which they get something that people are familiar with is if they take on a contract that a team wants to get rid of, like a one-year deal. So you take on somebody else's version of Steven Matz, that kind of a situation. I could see that happening for the Cardinals, but otherwise, yeah, I think people are going to be highly underwhelmed by what the return is for Arenado. Alex, what do you got for us?
Guys, bet it or forget it. One of Jordan Walker or Nolan Gorman emerge as a star this season.
Bet it. I think it's Walker. I'm buying into the Jordan Walker hype. I'm a believer.
Man, I can't wait for the best shape of his life comments that we get in spring training. And BK's
going to there yesterday.
BK after his first day going to winter warm-up is going to come back and guys, Jordan Walker, best shape of his life.
Jordan Walker at 21 years old in 2023 hit 275 for the season in 500 plate appearances, had 16 homers, 51 ribbies, and 7 stolen bases. That is not a guy that I just give up on after a bad season. So I think Jordan Walker is still going to be a really good player. Is he going to be the next Albert Pujols? No, I don't expect that. But can he be 20 to 25% above league average offensively? I think that's still in his range of outcomes. So I'll bet it.
How did you frame the question?
Will emerge as stars this year. One of.
I will forget that. I think he'll have a good year. I don't know if it'll be good enough to where all Cardinal fans, or even us here in the media, will look at it and go, yeah, that's it. I think he needs a year where he'll go through some ups and downs again continuously, but he'll finish with good numbers like he did in 23. And I think it's probably the following year where you see him really break out. Gorman, I don't think he's going to be that guy. He's too streaky to end up becoming that guy.
Yeah, I'm forgetting this as well because I think people are going to be jaded no matter what. And at the end of the season, it might look good, but people are going to say, I need another year of it because I think Cardinals fans have been hurt in the past by guys that look good in one season.
So just to throw this out there, a guy that had similar number, like the kind of production I'm talking about, 25 to 30% above league average offensively, guys that fit into that criteria were William Contreras, Jackson Merrill, Anthony Santander, Jarren Duran. Those are guys that kind of fit into that type of range. If he fits into that, I think we should view him as a star, even if it's not widely accepted. So that's why I'm going that direction. T-Bone?
Guys, something else that went kind of under the radar that was reported yesterday. Quinn Matthews will be with the St. Louis Cardinals at spring training as a non-roster or as a rostered invitee. Bet it or forget it. We will see him before the All-Star break next year.
Bet it.
I'm going to bet it as well. I think we see him sometime in June. I think he will get a couple of months in AAA. He finished the season there last year. I think he starts out there again in 2025. And then get to about June or so, he'll get his opportunity. I think it might be a while before we see Quinn Matthews if we see him, or excuse me, Team Kentz, if we see him at all. But McGreevy, Palante, I think start with the team, and then I think Quinn Matthews joins them at some point.
That's where I'm at.
June
I think May late May, early June, because I think they're going to want to get a month or two in the AAA. Keeps doing with the numbers that he was last year, and then they say, let's give him a shot.
Gives him 6 or 7 starts probably in the minor leagues before he gets up.
Here's where I would bet this too, because like right now, who's your 6th starter in the organization?
10.
Yeah, my question will be like, what will happen if they deal with an early injury again? Do they go back to the Liberatore experience of, okay, well, we've got to yo him back and forth because it's too soon for Matthews? I know we both listened to the best podcast in baseball with Derek Gould, and he was talking with Kevin Wheeler, and I thought Wheels brought up a really good point of, hey, let's see how he looks in AAA first. You got to remember, he's a college pitcher, so when he was in these lower-level minor leagues, he's going to carve up some of these younger, inexperienced guys. So it may be a little bit longer for him to figure it out at the AAA level, and especially with that automatic strike zone. But I think you'll see him before the All-Star break. I'm fascinated to know if Liberatore's kind of the 6th starter for the first 2 months.
Guys that fit into that criteria that you're talking about right now include Zach Thompson, Matthew Liberatore, Gordon Graceffo. Yeah. Those are the guys that I think do they end up in that 6th starter role, or are they bullpen arms? I think all of them could go in either direction depending on what happens in spring.
Me personally, don't yo-yo Matthew Liberatore. Keep him as a bullpen arm.
That's right.
He found his role. Keep him there. Zach Thompson, do whatever you want. Unfortunately for that guy, I think his development's going to be stunted no matter what. Liberatore, you found a role. Don't take him out of it.
He's Alex, this T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, has Drinkwitz earned the benefit of the doubt? Because there was a massive transfer that was announced earlier today, and it's something I don't think Mizzou fans are going to be thrilled about. Has Drink earned the benefit of the doubt with situations like this? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. With Alex Ferrario, I'm Brandon Kiley for our friends over at Circus Sports in Illinois. If you haven't downloaded the app yet, what are you waiting for? This is the best time to do so. We're getting closer to the college football playoff. You've got NFL games still to bet on down the stretch. You've got season awards, Alex, that you can bet on over there, those futures bets. And for me, the bet that I'm looking at most is Saquon Barkley still to win the MVP. The Eagles forgot how to throw the football. Even their wide receivers are saying this publicly now. Saquon's plus 660 to win the MVP over on Circa. He's 5.5 to 1 on FanDuel. You're getting the best odds when you bet on Circa.
This is why you need to download it. The futures bets, the tight money line splits, or maybe you got a parlay for a hockey game like I do for the Blues tonight. I got a fun one for you. Plus 700 Blues alt puck line, which means they win by 1.5, 2 or more goals, and Jake Neighbors scoring a goal against St. Louis. Plus 700 odds over on Circa Sports. You do that on DraftKings, sitting at plus 550. You get the best odds possible with Circa Sports Illinois. So download it today and get all your betting needs taken care of. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues back in action tonight as they visit the Vancouver Canucks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario, then puck drop at 9 o'clock with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. This portion update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, so there was some big news that came out earlier today on the recruiting front. Missouri is hosting Miller Moss, the quarterback from USC, starting today on his visit. So that's something we'll certainly be paying attention to see if there's any potential commitment from him while he's at Mizzou. They would like him to avoid taking that visit to Louisville if possible. But Alex, the big news today was something that is not a positive for the Tigers. Williams Nwaneri, last year, their big-time recruiting haul, he's a 5-star defensive end out of Kansas City, has officially entered his name into the transfer portal. Now, there was a point in time, I don't know, 3 years ago, 2 years ago maybe, in which if this exact same news happened with this kind of a player, Mizzou fans would be freaking out today, absolutely losing their minds. Instead, because Drinkwitz has continued to recruit the way that he has, and because he's had 20 wins over the past 2 seasons, I think Mizzou fans are mostly taking this news of like, damn, that sucks. Would like him to be back for Mizzou next year, but I think they're still going to be pretty good. I think he was like 6th in the rotation at defensive end heading into this offseason, so it's not as if they lost some impact starter. Do you think Eli Drinkwitz at this point has earned the benefit of the doubt with a transfer announcement like this, Alex?
Absolutely. Because when I saw the news, it's like, oh, damn, going into the transfer portal, what's up? But then you sit there and you think a little bit more. Yeah, I wonder if Mizzou realizes that they need money that could go towards a different player that might be benefiting their team moving forward. I don't look at any moves in terms of recruitment and transfer portal that Eli Drinkwitz is a part of anymore and say, yeah, what the hell is he doing? Because every single move feels like a chess move for Drink.
I don't think this one was that for what it's worth. I think this one is the player wants more money.
Which totally understandable, but if you're Drink, you understand it's like, yeah, cool, we're not going to up it for this player because that money can be allocated towards another player. So like even, and that's what I mean, like even when things aren't expected, it feels like they've always got to move in front of them. Whereas some other coaches in college football would be like, what do we do now? That's the guy we were hoping for.
Like Florida State, where they're apparently taking Thomas Castellanos, who's the quarterback from Boston College, who's fine, fun running quarterback, but not a good thrower. And the stuff that was said about him after he was benched, that is not a guy that I would want as a part of my my program. And it sounds like he's probably going to be the starter at Boston College or at Florida State next year.
Good thing they're coming off a winning year.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no.
T-Bone, what'd you make of this? Because we were all surprised by the news. I think everybody at Mizzou, it sounds like even the players were surprised because there's a bunch of guys that have posted on social media today saying something to the effect of like, whoa, what?
Baby, come back.
Yeah, did they send that meme out on social media? I was surprised by it, but like I'm kind of with you guys. I don't look at that as like a knock on Drinkowitz or Drink just lost one of his best recruits. No, man, Drink's made Mizzou a recruiting machine right now. So I'm not too taken aback by it. You know, this isn't like if Illinois had this guy here, right? No offense, Brett. But if Brett Bielema had a 5-star defensive end that he recruited and then a year later was like, hey, deuces, I'm going to the transfer portal, I'd be freaking out because Bielema doesn't get those guys. That's not the case for Eli Drinkowitz. He's been able to land solid recruits over the last 3 years at the program. If this was Burden when Burden first came to Missouri, that's when it would have been a different story. But Burden stayed throughout. They built a culture with that team, and Drink's just been building on top of that, along with not just building on top of it recruiting-wise, but winning on the football field with those guys.
I think Burden skewed the way the fans, at least at Mizzou, view guys like this. Because Burden came in and was never a headache. I remember there was a quote from Eli Drinkwitz that posted last week from his interview with SiriusXM, and he was telling a story about after Burden's second year. This is after not this past season that we just witnessed, but the year prior, where he had these crazy numbers, right? And he had all of his exit interviews with players, and you come through, and now it becomes also not just like a, hey, here's where you're at, here's where we want you to get to by next season, here's kind of the role that we see. It's also the player saying, well, here's where I'm at NIL-wise, here's where I want to be, what can you do for me there money-wise, right? It becomes a negotiation after every season between the player and the team. And Burden hadn't had his yet. So Drinkwitz was talking to him, and he's like, he called him up. He said, hey, Luther, are we good? Is everything okay? Like, what's going on? And apparently Burden told him, not worried about the money. Don't worry about it. You guys have been nothing but fair to me. I know that you'll take care of me. We'll get it worked out. I'm good. You don't have to worry about me. That is not the norm, man. That is not the way that it's going with a lot of these negotiations, and it appears that that's not the way that it's going right now with Williams Nwaneri, who played like 100 snaps this past season for Mizzou and had almost zero impact on the field. Huge recruit. I think he's going to be a really good player down the road. But if Missouri has 4 defensive ends ahead of him, can't spend $1 million on a guy that's going to be your 5th defensive end of the rotation next year just to keep him around for the 2026 or 2027 season when he becomes the fully developed version of himself. Instead, to your point, Alex, and I like the way that you framed that, we're like, hey, they're going to have pivot points. Go spend that on a cornerback in the portal this year that's proven that he is a stud and can come in and impact your team next year. One thing that I'll be really curious about with NIL and how it transitions over time is, how do programs decide to allocate that money? Because I think you're seeing some of this where some programs are spending it on freshmen and others are spending it in the portal. You got to have a little bit of both. Certainly, there's a cap and you can only spend so much money. It does dissipate over time, even though it doesn't feel like that right now with Mizzou. But eventually, you've got to decide, okay, we could spend this $1 million on this kid that's a freshman, 5-star stud potentially down the road, but it's going to take 2 years for us to get him there. Or do we spend it on this dude that right now is available, ready to go for us? He's a junior. We'll get 2 years of eligibility out of him, and he's ready-made to start today. That's the kind of thing that I'll be very curious about down the road. How are teams going to start allocating that money? And you have to retain your players as well and keep a little bit of money ready to go for the offseason whenever you get into these negotiations. Changing times in college football, to put it lightly. Missouri has seen the benefits, and now, really for the first time, I would say, they're seeing a big-time player leave their program since NIL has been a part of it. We saw, I suppose the first one would have been Dominic Lovett. He left, but that opened up the slot. You had an obvious internal option for Luther Burden, but this is the first one where it was like, big-time recruit comes to Mizzou and leaves under Eli Drinkwitz. Typically, they get these things taken care of. You should expect more of this, not less of this in the future. It's going to be frustrating, but this is the way of the road.
Don't say it. Orange.
Yeah, no, he's not a part of the family.
I think he'll be at Nebraska. His high school coach is at Nebraska, and total guess, but my guess would be that he probably follows him there.
Just a different shade of orange.
Guess what? Nebraska didn't win more games than Illinois this year. So.
That's T-Bone. He's Alex on BK. The Rewind coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my insurance agent, Tracy Bibb, her team at Allstate, taking care of the Ferrario family. Whether it's our car, whether it's our home, we know we are in great hands with Tracy Bibb because she's always available for you. When you get the incredible customer service that Tracy and her team provide, it is so easygoing knowing that you have somebody that you can call when there's issues. They answer. That's the biggest part. And then they're able to solve that problem for you. You've heard me talk about issues in the past. Had a most recent one that we had a squirrel find its way up into our roof and chewed through some of our siding. I was curious. It fell under our coverage. It did not. But Tracy was able to give me that answer right away. So give Tracy a call today. You get that customer service. They preach it's not a matter of if something happens. It's when something happens. And when it does, Tracy's there for you and saving you money on your car and home insurance as well. So 314-328-4260. Just tell her Alex Ferrario sent you. Ask about the free non-committal quote. She'll walk you through everything and get you taken care of. 314-328-4260. It's no fib. You're always in great hands with the Bib.
Hey, if you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you can go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Alex, earlier today, we talked a decent amount about Nolan Arenado. You can find our full extended thoughts on that exact podcast page that we were just discussing. But do want to get back to that because there's been a decent amount of reporting over the last 24 hours on where the Cardinals are at with this. According to Katie Wu, John Mozeliak intends to try to trade Nolan Arenado. He has not demanded a trade, but he's open to working with the Cardinals to find a landing spot for him. His agent, Joel Wolf, was meeting with the media earlier today and basically said, hey, listen, we've got a list of teams that Nolan's interested in and willing to go to. That list is probably bigger than you anticipated being, but it's not going to be every team in Major League Baseball. He wants to go to a winner. He wants to go to a team that's going to be fully committed to winning right now and for the rest of his Major League career. Katie then reported that the main priority in trading Nolan Arenado is financial. There is also a byproduct of trading Nolan Arenado that you will get young players opportunities, but this will be about getting his contract off of the books for the Cardinals. After hearing all of the reporting over the last 24 hours, Alex, and then seeing what Joel Wolf, his agent, had to say earlier today, where are you at on the Nolan Arenado trade negotiations? How are you feeling about this as a Cardinals fan?
I'm a lot more confident than what I was a couple of weeks ago. I just thought that the availability of teams that Arenado would be willing to go to was going to be very, very, very limited. Like I was thinking 2. And that was going to cause problems because guess what the other teams have? Leverage. And the Cardinals aren't going to put themselves in a bad spot. But now that at least it sounds like he's willing to explore other opportunities, the part that I do find interesting from his comments saying that he doesn't want to make a lateral move, meaning you go to another team that looks like a contender but is really just a pretender, that might isolate some of those mid-market teams that he was willing to talk about. But the money is still going to be the priority, and a little skeptical that the Cardinals are able to find somebody that's willing to take all of that on that Arenado's willing to go to. But I'm very convinced he's not going to be a Cardinal by the start of this upcoming season.
That's the biggest holdup for me is the money. Is what the Cardinals basically saying out loud, hey, we do not really want to eat money in this by saying this is essentially just a salary dump. It makes me wonder if they're going to be able to find somebody that's going to take on his full contract. And that just tells you right away, okay, just be prepared. It's going to be a very limited return in what you're getting in this trade. I am skeptical. I do think they are clearly trying to trade him. I think it's 80% chance they get this done. I think a big market team will take on the Arenado deal. But I can see where there is a scenario where there is a path. He's still a Cardinal by the time we get to spring training because of his contract.
Yeah, I think he ends up getting dealt. I think that they end up prioritizing getting as much of the money off of the books as possible. I think they're kidding themselves, though, if they think they can get all of the money off of the books. I think they will have to end up eating some of it, probably like $5 million a year, something like that. And then he becomes roughly a market rate type of a player.
Range.
That's about where he should be, probably. Somebody will take him on, give basically nothing back in return, and the Cardinals end up moving a decent chunk of the money, giving that opportunity for their young players. I know it's unpopular, but I think it is going to end up being the right move for the team. And I think he will likely get more production offensively out of both third base and first base than what they had a year ago. Last thing that I wanted to get to, Alex, there was news on Roki Sasaki, the big-time Japanese pitcher that's coming over to America this offseason. He is not going to be posted the way that Yamamoto was previously. This is a guy that's coming over under the international free agency signing rule. So he's got, I think it's like up to $5 million that he can get in signing bonus, but every team's eligible to sign him. His agent, Joel Wolf, said he is open to playing for a mid to smaller market team, and he is not somebody that wants the limelight. He feels like it would actually be better for him, his mental health, if he doesn't play in a big market with a ton of Japanese media presence. Do you give the Cardinals any chance to sign Roki Sasaki? We'll get out of here quickly, but in the next 45 seconds or so, do you guys give them any chance to sign him?
If I were to put a percentage on it, I'd put it at 5%. Because I think there's a slight chance that it could happen because of the criteria that Sasaki has put out there. But I believe there are other mid or small markets that don't have that media coverage that he's searching for that also has a winning pedigree right now.
Yeah, I'd give him like a 15% chance. I think the Newbar connection helps. I think the fact of the matter that it is a smaller market helps. I think the problem is that they're not winning. And I think that's where it becomes a bit of a sticking point, and that's why I think he'll look at Cleveland.
Cleveland makes sense. Tampa, to me, makes a lot of sense for him as well. I think he might end up convincing himself that San Diego, smaller market, not quite as much limelight as
makes sense
LA.
too.
Maybe something like that. I could see him going to one of those types of teams. I'll give it a 5% chance, though. I think Milwaukee makes a lot of sense for him.
How did I end up with the highest percentage?
You're the one that doesn't believe.
Zero. It's better than it was 4 hours ago, but it's certainly not up there very high. He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next year on 101 ESPN.